шовкові полі, я полкового знамена, дивлюсь на нього я востаннє, у нез'ясованій журбі, всю кров мою зі скидання, воно вібрало у собі, всю кров мою зі скидання, воно вібрало у собі. Усе, що разом пережито, в обходах вистраждано все. Я знаю, інші гордовито прапороносець. Дивлюсь на нього я востаннє, у нез'ясованій журбі, всю кров мою зі скитання, воно вібрало у собі, всю кров мою зі скитання, воно вібрало у собі. Хай Марс! Хай Марс!
Із Америки приїхав наш надійний побратим, познайомтеся із ним.
Хай Марс!
В росіян зі сраки дим.
Хай Марс!
Ла-ла-ла-ла-ла.
Хай Марс!
За ракетою ракету на паскудних ворогів випускає весь наш гнів.
Хай Марс!
Робить все без зайвих слів.
Хай Марс!
Ла-ла-ла-ла.
Хай Марс!
Московити зі снарядами гребуться на складах, коли робить свій бабах.
Хай Марс!
Наганяє лютий страх.
Хай Марс!
Ла-ла-ла-ла.
Хай Марс!
Розробляють окупанти свої плани у штабах, але чути знов бабах.
Хай Марс!
Лупить нечисть по зубах.
Хай Марс!
Ла-ла-ла-ла.
Хай Марс!
Окупанти лиш заповнили склади своїм пальним, як вітається із ним.
Хай Марс!
Підіймає чорний дим.
Хай Марс!
Ла-ла-ла-ла.
Хай Марс!
Не любити московитів і довести нелюбов помагає знов і знов.
Хай Марс!
Найточніший орколов.
Хай Марс!
Ла-ла-ла-ла.
Хай Марс!
Ла-ла-ла-ла. Ла-ла-ла-ла. Ла-ла-ла-ла.
Хай Марс!
Ла-ла-ла-ла. Ла-ла-ла-ла. Ла-ла-ла-ла.
Хай Марс!
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великой страны.
найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні. У нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів. Робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пихцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить. Хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар? Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ. Тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer. I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, everybody. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 178 of the news.
And of course, we're going to be reporting on the past 20... Golly, I'm really screwing up. Sorry, everyone. We're going to be reporting on the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine, and we have some big news. Today, we didn't see an ATACMS flying into Sevastopol, nor any rocket for that matter. The most interesting thing that happened today is that a single well-placed Ukrainian drone that somehow was not shot down by Russian air defenses as it flew over nearly 150 miles of Russian-occupied territory, slammed down into the major port city of Sevastopol in Crimea, leading the Black Sea Fleet, which is stationed at Sevastopol, out to sea as it tries to race away from what may potentially become a major disaster if they were to stay there. We're actually going to go right down to Sevastopol right now and cover the news from all of Crimea right now, because we can see that apparently the Ukrainians are starting to go on the offensive, especially with the amount of missiles and rockets that they're firing into Russian-held territory right now. Starting off with Sevastopol and then showing what has happened around the rest of Crimea today, we see that Russian air defenses were active over the city of Sevastopol and were trying to shoot down some kind of Ukrainian projectiles, whether they be missile or drone. We're not apparently sure, but we can see in the caption that the Russians claim it was a drone. So here's the video. We can see that the center of the video is blurred out, but that is clearly some kind of a Tunguska or a Shilka that's firing into the air and praying to shoot down this drone. Oh, man. At this point, we already know that the Black Sea Fleet and its commanders are sweating behind the bridges of their ships as they're thinking, what if the actual Black Sea Fleet is next? It could be possible that it does happen, that the Black Sea Fleet could get taken out. That's most likely what these Russian commanders are thinking. And if we pull up Ukraine and go to Google Maps, I want to show y'all where the Black Sea Fleet is actually based out of in the Sevastopol, I guess you could say, inlet. Sevastopol City revolves around this massive V-wedge-shaped inlet. It's a bay, pretty much, with how big it is, and the entirety of the city wraps around it. Now, if we go down here and we look through this port, you can see there's a lot of stuff here. First, we can see the yachts of Russian oligarchs as they're sitting here at the port. We can also see more yachts, some cargo ships, it appears, near the very rear of this little inlet. And now, we start to see some Russian naval stuff. We can see here a Kilo-class submarine and also what appears to be a Foxtrot-class submarine, which is most likely the one that the Russians captured from the Ukrainians early on in 2014 when they took Sevastopol from them. Moving on up this little inlet, we can also see a Russian warship right here, and also a couple of the Russian transport ships of the same class, as a matter of fact, that was blown up at the port city of Berdyansk and sunk at its moorings. So you can see here that this is where the Black Sea Fleet is stationed, and you can see the warships right here on satellite footage. They're not only in this inlet. If we travel around the port, you can actually see that they're in several various places, just scattered all throughout. If we go back here, let me see if I can find the exact spots where they are real quick, because that's not all of them. We can see some more right here. Here's some more Russian frigates, and also, I don't know if y'all noticed this, but Matthew, take a guess at what ship this was.
Was that the Moskva?
That is the Moskva, everyone, right there, moored at Sevastopol port, and that shows that this satellite footage was certainly taken before the Black Sea Fleet lost its flagship, I guess you could say. But it's still pretty neat to see that we do know that the Moskva is here, and we can see that the rest of Russia's naval infrastructure is here along this side of the port, and this also gives us an idea that the bulk of the Russian Black Sea Fleet is based here. And so today, what we saw was nothing short of something hilarious, because after seeing all of this massive AA fire that the Russians have been putting up around Sevastopol in a vain effort to defend it from incoming Ukrainian attacks, it appears that all of that shock and awe was completely pointless as a single literally one Ukrainian drone somehow made it through the Russian lines. And let's just measure this out real quick. Not its entire flight distance, but just the shortest flight it could have taken over Russian territory. So from north of Kherson to Sevastopol, this is around a 160-mile long flight. A drone of this kind can only fly at around 200 miles per hour, and so that means it was most likely in air over Russian-occupied territory for a total 45 minutes on its way to Sevastopol before it struck in this video. But as we can see right here in this clip, a Ukrainian drone flew over Sevastopol under fire and reached its target, which was the headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet, slamming into it and exploding. This is a lot like the suicide drone that we saw attacking the Russian oil refinery near Rostov-on-Don, and I think it's actually the exact same kind. So here's the video. We can hear the little electric motor it almost sounds. Honestly, no. Let me go back and change that, because I know Matthew can hear the audio. What does this sound like, Matthew? Because it sounds honestly like a little lawnmower to me.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lawnmower. This is going to become as intimidating as the A-10's Burt.
Yeah, it probably will. Whenever a Russian hears a lawnmower when they come back from the war, they're going to have like a PTSD fit. But we can see this thing flying over Sevastopol. Like an RC plane, pretty much. And now you can see the aftermath of where it went. We also have another video corroborating this. You can see the little mushroom cloud there from where the drone impacted, showing us that it did actually hit its target. Which is unbelievable to think it flew this far and not only was able to travel such a distance, but actually hit its target. We now hear some AA fire.
Пошел вниз, сбили. Есть. Взорвался. Вон дым поднимается.
And that's the end of this video, but we're now going to move into the second one, which shows a different perspective of this drone attack. Please do enjoy. When you see in this clip, you can actually hear that they're trying to shoot down the drone, and it nosedives into its target and hits it. The video then loops, but of course, based off of the two videos we've seen, we are seeing the drone right here on its final path, the part that was cut out in the last video. The Russian AA and the ground units are trying to fire up at this drone and shoot it down, but to no avail as it continues to slam into its target. And finally, the Russian Black Sea Fleet has now become a target in its very own home port. For the entirety of this war, it's been something that has been said by everyone, including me, that the Black Sea Fleet, as long as it stays within port, will most likely remain safe. The Ukrainians have not only defied everyone's expectations over the course of this entire war, but now they're going above and beyond what even the most optimistic of us are thinking, and now they've actually made the Black Sea Fleet have to raise its anchors and sail away from Sevastopol port. Here we can see Russian warships at the mouth of the inlet sailing away as smoke billows up from the port behind them. Here's the video. I honestly cannot believe this, and I don't think any of y'all are probably believing this either. It's not that it's fake or it's too untrue, but it's surreal to think that this sequence of events has left the Russian Black Sea Fleet pretty much without its actual home port. As far as I've been able to tell, the Black Sea Fleet has largely been trying to find a brand new port to use for quite an amount of time, and I believe the new one that they've picked is Novorossiysk, which is actually on the Russian mainland. And if we go over here, let's look at their port. Let's see if we can spot any naval ships here. So we can see a lot of cargo ports with cranes and, of course, I guess you could say containers to load onto them. And also a lot of aggregate storage. You can see here that there's an aggregate, I guess you could say, ship here waiting for its cargo to be unloaded, which it could really be anything. It could be bauxite, coal, who really knows. But there's not a lot of naval infrastructure here for a military like the Black Sea Fleet. So I don't really know if the Russians could actually use this port, but we can see here that apparently the Mikhail Kutuzov cruiser is here as a museum piece. Now, I wouldn't doubt it if the Russians actually made this the brand new flagship of the Black Sea Fleet, because I don't know, they're starting to run out of stuff, but still, it looks like it's not really in that great of condition for a museum ship anyways. But moving on from this little aside about the Kutuzov, it is still pretty interesting to see that the Black Sea Fleet has finally been evicted from Sevastopol port. It's been in the making for some 8 years at this point, but it's finally happened. And so with that bombshell of news, we're now going to travel even north, further up the coast, to the town of Yevpatoryva, where we can see the air defenses being activated over this town as Ukrainian missiles or drones continue to fly towards their targets in Crimea. We can see Russian missiles exploding mid-air over the town, as whatever these Ukrainian units are still continuing to move their way towards their targets. We can finally hear the sound of the rocket flying towards the drone or whatever may have been up there. And now we can finally hear the explosion. That tells you how far away that missile really was from the cameraman. That's the end of the video, and this is not the only video that we've gotten of this kind from the Crimean Peninsula. All the way out on the furthest western tip of the peninsula at Olenivka, today we saw air defenses also being activated over this town as well. So let's check out this video because it's starting to show a huge trend. Also some sick beats in the background as the Russians are fighting for their life in Crimea. That's the end of that video, and now you can start to see that there is a bit of a trend going on in Crimea. It now seems that the Ukrainians are no longer on the defensive in terms of long-range, deep penetration attacks against themselves, pretty much, because for the entirety of the war, they've been trying to defend themselves from Russian cruise missile and ballistic missile attacks. And that's almost been the story the whole entire time, as Russians continue to slam down the missiles and to populate the civilian areas like Kyiv, Lviv, and any town you see on this map has pretty much been targeted at one point or another by a Russian missile attack. But now it seems that the Ukrainians have flipped the tables. It seems that not only are they using ATACMS or Grom missiles to strike their targets deep within Russia and also Crimea, but now they're starting to get really innovative with the suicide drones and do things that I would think are unthinkable. It's unbelievable to think that this Ukrainian drone has somehow flown 150 miles all the way from Kherson, most likely, or Mykolaiv, down towards Sevastopol and struck its target without even being seen by Russian anti-air batteries that would have shot it down. It's honestly unbelievable, and quite a feat that the Ukrainians have been able to pull off something like this. So with that in mind, we're now going to go to the town of Sevastopol, where last time we saw a whole load of people at a train station trying to leave Russia. Now we can see that the Ukrainians are starting to commit a little bit of psychological warfare against the Russians that are there in Crimea as they hack TVs and begin to play speeches from President Zelensky. And so here's the video of that happening on a Russian TV in Crimea. We can see Zelensky on screen, and right now the Russians, like the propagandists in Moscow, are thinking, "What is he talking? What is going on?" And it's hilarious to me to think that the Ukrainians are somehow pulling off this much stuff on Russian TV. We've seen this multiple times throughout the war, and now, with the missile attacks in Crimea, it must really be getting deep within Russians' heads of what's going on and how bad things are for them. This seems like a simple video, pretty much a music video with some Ukrainian imagery in it, but you've got to remember, with all of the air defenses being activated over all of these Crimean towns, trying to shoot down Ukrainian missiles and drones as they continue to fly in large waves at this point into Crimea, and actually successfully attacking targets like Dzhankoy, the Saki airfield, Sevastopol airport, the Black Sea Fleet, You've got to remember, with all of that involved in tourists trying to flee Crimea, this single video could be enough to tip people over the edge and send them into a living hell pretty much in their minds, as the entire image that the Russians have been invincible and are winning this war is all coming to an end, especially for the Russian Crimeans, as they sit here and watch the TV playing a Ukrainian propaganda video after they've literally heard and seen missiles are bursting overhead, missiles bursting onto military bases miles away, and you can kind of get the idea of what people are actually going through in Crimea, especially the Russians. Oh, man.
Крим – це Україна.
And with that low Slava Ukraini, loads of Russians are freaked. They are literally so freaked out that a report and a video has come out today saying that there is a traffic jam all the way from the Kerch Bridge to Yalta. Yalta is literally just 20 miles away from Sevastopol, and so many Russians are trying to leave Crimea at a single time that we've gotten that report, and not only the report, but a video from today showing that that massive traffic jam that started nearly a week and a half ago still exists. It hardly looks like it's even changed in the ferocity of Russians trying to leave Crimea. It's unbelievable. Look at this. Even the army's trying to leave Crimea. Look, there's some Russian guy in the Kamaz trying to drive out of Crimea. Oh my lord. And it goes on and on and on. Just almost over 100 miles of a traffic jam. This makes Los Angeles traffic look like nothing. And that's the end of the video, and now I hope that y'all are getting a really good idea of what's really going on for the Russians in Crimea, specifically the Russians who, as far as we know, the majority of them actually do support the war and think that Russia's doing incredibly well. And on top of that, they're going in to occupy Crimea, a part of Ukraine as a sovereign nation, and enjoying their vacations there, and they've literally watched this image fall apart right in front of their faces, literally explode in front of them. And as they leave, they are greeted by a sign on the Kerch Bridge that says, "Welcome to Ukraine." The Ukrainians have literally made the "we're losing the war" experience a reality. If you ever wanted to feel like you are losing a war, these Russians leaving Crimea are going to be so traumatized by both the TV hacks, the sign on the Kerch Bridge saying "Welcome to Ukraine," and the missile attacks that occurred on the beaches where they were taking a vacation, that there is probably no doubt in any of their minds that the world is just turned upside down, and they're going to be heading back to Russia and telling their family and their friends, "We have lost." The Ukrainians might as well be in Crimea right now with everything that's going on there. It is hilarious, and I gotta say, huge props to the Ukrainians for somehow getting all of this done, especially with the, I guess you could say, cherries on top to the attacks, making the, I guess you could say, psychological torment of seeing your country just immediately start losing on its surface come to reality. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from these little clips and bits of news from Crimea, which are impressive to say the least, and we're now going to be jumping up to Kyiv to show out and check out another little bit of stuff that the Ukrainians have pulled off over yesterday. So, first, we can see that the city of Kyiv is having another expo, but not a normal expo. This is, in fact, an incredibly good one. We've seen something like this happen before, but they brought it back again, and with fresh stuff. We all know that expos require fresh things to be in circulation, and the Ukrainians know this as good as anyone else, as they've now brought a whole bunch of fresh Russian vehicles back into the capital to show off as they continue to blister the Russians across every single part of the front. And if you thought that was the only bit of this expo, oh, it continues. Well, you've got another video showing that.
The afternoon report from Maidan. August 20th. Gotta love a headless tank.
See a little BTR, a little tank turret, most likely a T-72. That's a BTR-60 most likely. See a Tiger armored car. And the expo goes on and on and on down that road.
That's some beautiful equipment.
And I would have to agree with our cameraman, it certainly is some beautiful equipment. You can't really say at this point, the Russians look like they could turn this thing around and win. They can't even win psychologically anymore in Crimea, and resource-wise either. Just look at what's happened in Crimea. Their only naval force in the Black Sea Fleet, has now come under direct attack at their home port and has had to set sail into the Black Sea with probably no foreseeable plan that they immediately had on the spot. They're now going to have to figure out if they're going to moor those ships in Sevastopol again or try and send them to a port like Novorossiysk. On top of that, the Russian Air Force has been critically damaged. The Saki airfield explosion destroyed a total of 10 aircraft. We don't know how many were destroyed at the Sevastopol airport, which had around 50 on the satellite footage, and also at Dzhankoy, where there could have been another 20 aircraft. We have no idea the damage that's even been caused to the Russian Air Force, and we already know that the Black Sea Fleet now has a timer on them where these ships will have to find some kind of port eventually to moor at to resupply, rearm, and repair, and we don't know when that will be. And so pretty much everything for the Russians in Crimea, outside of the army itself, has fallen apart right in front of their faces over the past few days, and it is the most incredible thing we have seen over the course of this war. Moving on, once again, out of Kyiv and Crimea, as kind of like a whole combined image, we're now going to be moving up to Moscow. And I know you're all going to enjoy this, because it seems like the Ukrainians are now on the offensive as well, as in trying to take out Russian officials. But unfortunately, it looks like they missed their actual target today and ended up getting this person's relative. To explain what happened, we're going to go to this video first, and I'm going to give a little bit of a background as to who this is. Daria Alexander Dugin, to get this correct, we're going to pull him up. Alexander Dugin is a Russian, you know, if you can see the Wikipedia post right here, I'll just read it all for y'all. He is a Russian political philosopher, analyst, and strategist, known for views widely characterized as fascist. Now, interestingly enough, being a fascist and all, and, you know, the enemy of Russia, as they are trying to denazify Ukraine, he is actually called upon by Putin quite commonly, in fact, well, actually often. And in the West, here in America, we actually call him Putin's brain. That tells you about how fascist the Russians are and how ironic it is for them to say they're denazifying Ukraine, when this guy, as we can see here, he's the main organizer of the National Bolshevik Front, which is a pretty fascist group in Russia. And this guy here is called upon, of course, like I said, by Putin quite commonly, often, as a matter of fact. And if you're in a high political position like that in any country, you start to become a bit of a target, and people start to look at you and think, wow, what if we took that guy out? How much damage would that actually do to Russia? And so it appears that an unknown group, we're not sure if this was Ukraine or saboteurs working on their behalf, or anyone for that matter, apparently someone rigged a bomb to a car that was believed to have been owned by Alexander Dugin. When the person got in the car and started it, the car exploded and ended up killing Alexander Dugin's daughter, Daria Dugin. Here's the video of the fire after this car has, of course, combusted. Here's another perspective of this car bombing that we were able to find before we ran this stream tonight. So here's the other angle of another video. And this video here actually includes what we suppose was the actual target of this attack, Alexander Dugin. You can see him here in the green jacket. The car right down the street. Now, it's unfortunate that this man's daughter was killed, considering she most likely wasn't the target, but still it is showing that the Russian government is not immune to assassination attempts like the Russian government has made people to believe. Of course, the Russians make people believe a lot of things, and before the war, a lot of people just believed what the Russians wanted them to without question. They were one of the largest powers in the world, both military and economically, and the Russian government was untouchable. So far, up until today, 2 out of 3 of those statements were found out to be false. The third one was found out to be false today. If Alexander Dugin had actually gotten in that car and started it, he would have been the one to have died and not his daughter. But somehow, by misfortune, his daughter was the one to get in this car and start it. Also, this is taking a little bit of I'm taking a little bit of liberties with assumptions and assuming that this wasn't the actual target. This may have been the target, and this may be sending a message to Alexander Dugin. Maybe it's time for you to step down from your position as an advisor and kind of fade into obscurity in a way. I'm not exactly sure, but it is an interesting event, and especially since it occurred in Moscow. If y'all don't know anything about the security in Moscow, it is tight. When you start getting near the center of the city, kind of in this ring road right here that I'm outlining with my mouse cursor, there are a lot of military checkpoints where they check your bags, your clothes, your vehicles, to make sure that you don't have any weapons or bombs in them. And so, depending on where this happened, if this did happen in the center of the city, it is unbelievable. And a massive gap in Russian security, considering that it's already so strict, that this was able to happen. And this may start to raise some eyebrows in the Russian government of other advisors and political figures, wondering, if they can make it through these security checkpoints in Moscow, could I be the next person to get it? And so while it is a bit unfortunate that it, as far as we know, took out an unfortunate person, it is still something that will most likely lead to a lot of fear and pandemonium against the Russian oligarchs and top officials in the government, like Putin himself. With that, we're now going to be moving out of Russia and down into our location unknowns, the Kharkiv news, and also a little bit of our Belgorod news. But before we get to all of that, we have to address 3 questions from the chat, and after we answer those 3 questions, we'll then be moving on into the next segment of news. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, folks, and moving into our first question segment of the stream, we have 2 polls to address, and the first one was, do you think the Bayraktar sound will become as intimidating as the A-10's famous Bert? It looks like 46% of you said no, the A-10 Bert is unmatched. 36% said yes, very possible, and 19% said maybe. So very interesting results. I would have to say that the A-10 Bert probably going to be unmatched, but at the same time, I could see an argument for both. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
I would have to honestly say that while the Bayraktar little whirring noise like a lawnmower is kind of funny, it's not scary. The A-10 is a scary plane. I mean, like, it looks mean, it sounds mean, and while, you know, I still have my opinions on it that I don't think it's a great plane to use in a modern war, you can't lie. This thing has a very good looking design to it. It's just mean looking. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. And so that A-10 Bert, in my opinion, will stay probably the scariest sound to hear coming from the skies. And so with that, I hope that addresses that poll in my opinion. And once again, that little Bayraktar whirring noise may become pretty feared at a point, because you got to remember that the V1 Doodlebug, sounding as goofy as it did, was a sound that was feared by Londoners when it was heard overhead. Any sound that is pretty much signifying soon to be doom will become a feared sound eventually. So it may become one, but I don't think it'll be as feared as the A-10. And so with that, we're on to the next poll.
And the next poll is, do you think the Russians are going to leave bad Yelp reviews for their vacation being cut short? 52% said yes. 1-star review, no doubt. 48% said no, they are used to bad quality. Both answers, I like them both. So I'm not going to pick a side on this one. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
I would have to say, oh man, that's a tough one because both of them are really good. Bad quality, yeah, I could believe that because wait a minute, before I say this, because I'm probably going to be blown away. Sevastopol probably looks like a nice place. So let me drop down there and see. Okay, I forgot. It's probably doesn't have any street view. So let's just drop down here and see. It has to look good, doesn't it? I mean, like, everywhere looks better than Birmingham, Alabama. I'm miffed. Y'all don't know how aggravating this is. Let's check this out just to make sure. Okay, for once, this looks about as bad as Birmingham. So with that in mind, what is this? Oh, it's a barber shop. I just saw. I was about to be like, wait a minute, it's a barber shop. But with that, I would have to say that the Russians are probably used to bad quality. And even if they were used to bad quality, on the flip side, I'd also have to agree with the other answer to the poll in saying they're probably going to leave a 1-star review this time because while the quality's always been bad, it's never gotten airbase blowing up behind me on the beach bad. And so with that, I hope that does answer that poll, and we're now moving into the questions.
All right, and moving on to our first super chat of the night, we have a $50 donation from Enforcer for President, as well as a $50 donation from Oylam. And both of them do not leave comments, but Oylam and Enforcer for President, both of you are channel legends. You've been around for several nights. I think you've been around since the beginning, actually. I can't remember, but I know Oylam has. Enforcer for President, I think you've been around since the beginning, but you changed your name at some point. But nonetheless, yes, go ahead.
He changed his name to get cooler.
Yes, and it worked.
And also, I gotta thank both of y'all, Oylam and Enforcer for President, for helping out this channel so much and helping us to keep running. Y'all are also a large part of our hype squad and always sending out the nice positivity and the kind remarks about how we run this stream. And so thank you so much once again for the support and also being huge Elite Spring Army members and fans. Y'all are soldiers like the rest of them, and I thank you so much for helping us to keep this stream running. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you to both of y'all once again.
And up next, we have a $50 super chat from JK, who says, on behalf of all those who enjoy the stream but can't contribute, Slava Ukraine.
And man, thank you so much for the kind remarks. It's sometimes when we read these, it's like a kind remark like list. And it's always so nice and it's so flattering to hear that so many people enjoy this channel so much. And I've got to thank you so much, JK, for supporting us and helping us to keep this thing running, and also being such a kind person to us and helping us to be able to keep on doing what we're doing. And so with that, thank you so much once again, really, for the kind remarks, because that was very nice of you. And so with that, we are on to the final question of this question segment, and if it is another kind remark, I'm actually going to do a backflip, and I'll break my neck doing it. But with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much for the kind remarks again.
All right, and for our last one of the segment, we have a $50 donation from Thomas Marsh, who says, thanks for all the great content. I've been a little slow to figure out the super chatting, but here we go. God bless and all the best wishes.
Well, looks like I'm going to have to do a backflip. Just kidding. I know I wouldn't be able to do that. But I thank you so much for the support and also the kind comments. Again, we literally just read off kind comments in this question segment, and it's funny to me. It's so nice, and it's very sweet of all of y'all to say such nice things and tell us that what we're doing is something y'all appreciate and y'all enjoy how we do it. It means a lot to me, and I just got to thank you all so much once again. I know it's a little sappy to say that, but y'all honestly do not know how much it means to us to hear kind remarks, because, you know, we get, just being honest, we get some negativity, and there's actually people out there, surprisingly enough, that make it their life's work to hate on us sometimes, which is kind of weird. But it's just so nice to hear that people do enjoy our channel so much, and that the Elite Spring Army is as strong now as it's ever been. And so thank you to all of y'all once again. And with that, we're now going to be moving out of this question segment. And thank you so much once again for the super chat. And it may have taken you a while, but we of course appreciate your support. And if you just want to just enjoy the stream, we're more than happy to have all of y'all here. The Lee Spring Army is just a wonderful community, and I'm just thank you all so much once again for watching. And so with that, we are now going to be moving on out of this question segment and into our next segment of news, which will consist of the location unknowns, Kharkiv and Belgorod. Starting off with our location unknowns tonight with a bang, we can see a BTR-82 get a little bang, which is also an energy drink if y'all didn't know. There's the BTR-82, and we all know that looking straight top down at a BTR-82 is a bad sign, and we can see the egg yolk of death right here at the bottom of the screen. So let's check this out. Copyrighted music starts playing. The bomblet, oh my gosh, a hole-in-one shot. I don't know how they did it, but look at that, Matthew. They literally hit the wooden crate on the back of the BTR. That's quite a shot.
Wow.
He even popped the lid.
Is it just me, or does it look really funny with that thing dropping down from that view?
It does, doesn't it? I mean, it's weird because it does this little shimmy, and then it just kind of flies down like a little arrow. Let's watch that again, because it is kind of funny. A little shimmy, and then it just straightens out. And that one looks like it hit a little bit of ammo. We now see another bomblet being dropped. It hit to the side of the BTR. We now see another one being dropped. This one hits right under the turret. It looks like it almost went in the hatch. And we see another drone down there also dropping bomblets. That one hit right beside the turret, it looks like. Now we see this drone dropping another bomblet. Once again, more towards the rear. Another little snap, crackle, and pop of fire coming out of the back. That one hit dead onto the 30 mils turret. And it looks like this BTR is taking a little bit of a beating, actually, but we are starting to see a little smoldering coming from the inside of the BTR. And also, apparently the BTR is so scared, much like the normal Russian soldier, that it's beginning to pee itself on the road. You know, how much was that in gas, Matthew? I'm assuming that's probably about $60 worth of gas right there.
Probably so.
Probably. You now see another bomblet being dropped. This one just skimmed right by the side of the BTR. Another one. This one hitting the turret of the BTR again. Another one. They've hit this BTR a lot. This thing is really taking some punishment without really getting destroyed. And so I'm assuming that these are something like a high explosive drone bomblet instead of the normal ones that seem to be able to punch through the turret of T-72s sometimes. Now a fire is actually starting on this BTR. It's taken about 20 bomblets to do that, but still, 20 bomblets versus a $500,000 BTR, it's still a more than equivalent exchange. Now we see that the Ukrainians are putting some special video editing on this thing as the BTR continues to char down there. And we haven't seen the black smoke of death coming from inside the BTR, but I'm sure, given time, it will definitely begin to char. We can see it fart a little. I'll rewind that just in case if Matthew was looking at the chat, because this looks like it ate Taco Bell to me.
Well,
And with that, that's the end of the video. And it's great to see that the Ukrainians, although it took them about 20 little grenades to take that thing out, they finally knocked out another BTR-82. With that, we're now on to the next bit of Location Unknown videos, where we can see the Ukrainians using a little bit of combined arms. Here we can see a drone operator looking into the distance, along with a Ukrainian BMP-1 in front of him, firing at what we assume is what the drone's looking at. So here's the video. We can see a smoky, burning Russian vehicle there on the drone footage. We can see the BMP-1 fire. And that's the end of the video. A really interesting one. That is truly combined arms. The air and the ground working together. Isn't it beautiful? I would say it is. I don't know about y'all. But with that, that's the end of the video. And we're now on to the next bit of Location Unknown news. And also, real quick, Before we get done with the location unknowns, we're actually going to take a look at this park that these points have been put on, Sharifsky Park, because it's been here for a while, and the location unknowns have always kind of gone over it in a way, but I've never actually looked at what's on the map in that area. Moving on to the next bit, we can see the Ukrainians destroying a counter-battery radar that the Russians have installed in an unknown location in the country. Here is the video of them destroying it. Also, sick intro. We now see the drone looking down at that counter. Ooh. Didn't really give me time for an intro. We can see the counter battery radar right over here. This picks up where artillery is firing from, so that way they can give their own artillery units the coordinates to then commit counter battery fire against the Ukrainian artillery. And of course, y'all already saw what was about to happen, but an artillery round comes streaking down onto this thing and literally evaporates it right there. Ooh, that was something I wouldn't have wanted to have been on the receiving end of. We now see another artillery round landing. And another one. These look like some meaty artillery rounds. Smoke just billowing over these vehicles. And that counter battery radar was certainly destroyed. That direct hit at least destroyed the major technological components of the counter battery radar, knocking it out entirely, and the Russians in that area have now gone completely dark. They will probably not be able to know where the Ukrainian artillery is firing from for a pretty decent while until a replacement counter battery radar can be brought into that area. With that, we're now going to be moving into the next bit of Location Unknown News, where we can then see a Ukrainian soldier changing positions under a little bit of duress. And just in case if some of you don't know what duress means, it means stress, pretty much. But I'd have to say, this guy is pretty calm for what he's dealing with. He's about to hop into this Ukrainian car and start driving off to another position because this position has been exposed and Russian artillery is coming down on him. But he stays pretty calm and collected the entire time. So here's the video. He puts his gun in the car, he then closes the door, he then gets in the driver's seat, he takes the key, turns on the car, he lowers the window, he gets down for an incoming artillery round, and then gets back up and gets in the car, and then they get on the move. Unfortunately, the video ends there, but pretty interesting to see how this guy was just like, okay, we're under artillery fire now. He just puts the gun in the back of the car, lays down on the ground, shot explodes nearby, and then he just gets back up and he's like, okay, let's go. It tells you how calm and collected and professional a Ukrainian soldier is. With that, we're now going to be moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown News. This can't have a location because it's really everywhere. It's omnipotent. It's in the air, pretty much. It's the daily casualty report. Let's see what the Russians have lost so far. Ooh. That's not good at all. It looks like they're just 100 soldiers away from losing 45,000 troops total. They've lost another 8 tanks today, another 17 armored personnel carriers, 2 towed artillery pieces, no new MLRSs, no new anti-aircraft systems, no new planes, helicopters, boats. They've lost 8 additional drones, 3 special equipment vehicles, another 7 supply trucks, and unfortunately they were not able to shoot down any cruise missiles, although we haven't really seen a lot of video or picture evidence showing that the Russians are using those to a large extent anymore. But I gotta say, this number right here at the very top left corner and this number at the very bottom right is something. 3,137 supply vehicles destroyed, nearly 45,000 Russian soldiers killed. This is a high casualty war, especially for the Russians. I'd also like to take a moment because I noticed that some casualty statistics of another war that has happened in recent history is starting to line up to what the Russians are losing right now. The Gulf War is something that lasted for a couple of months, around the same time that this war has lasted so far. And if we go to Wikipedia, we can see that it says that this war the Operation, Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, which is the entirety of the Gulf War, lasted 6 months, 3 weeks, and 5 days. About the same time of this war right now. Think about that. The exact same time. Let's scroll down and look at the losses. The casualties and losses for the Iraqis over the 6 months, 3 weeks, and 5 days of this war was anywhere in between 20,000 to 50,000 killed and more than 75,000 wounded. Also, an additional 80 to 175,000 soldiers were captured, 3,300 tanks destroyed, 2,100 APCs destroyed, 2,200 artillery pieces destroyed, 110 aircraft destroyed, and then 137 of their aircraft flew to Iran and then pretty much surrendered themselves to the Iranians. If we go over and look at these casualty statistics here, we can see that the numbers are, in fact, about as high as they can be in some places. Like, for example, the casualties look like they would be on point with what the Iraqis took in the Gulf War. But in terms of tanks, we can see that the numbers are actually quite conservative, even compared to what the Iraqis lost in the Gulf War. We can see here that the Russians have only lost around 1,900 tanks, while the Iraqis, over the same period of time, lost around twice that number, nearer to 3,300. That's not really exact math, it's more like 1.5 times more, but still, y'all get the point. We can also see that they lost far less APCs than the Russians have. The Russians have lost 4,212 APCs. The Iraqis only lost around 2,100. But I bet y'all are starting to see how these pieces are starting to line up on the losses that the Russians have taken over the course of this war were enough during the Gulf War to make the Iraqis pretty much give up and pull back from Kuwait. And so I bet y'all are starting to get the idea now that while, of course, Iraq is far less capable than Russia, even during that time of its history, it is starting to give a little bit of a trend that these numbers and casualties that the Russians have taken over these past 6 months are high enough that some countries just couldn't stand the heat of the kitchen anymore and they had to get out. And so it may be soon that we see that the Russians are about to give up in this war, and very soon that the number of tanks, armored personnel carriers, and supply trucks that they can send to keep this front line going will begin to dwindle. With that, that's the end of this little bit of Location Unknown news here with this casualty statistics, and we're now on to the next bit of Location Unknown news, showing that the M113s are in Ukraine. Here's the video. We can see it rolling along, and it is pretty cool to see that there are M113s. We're not really sure where these are from. They could be from the United States or any other country for that matter. But it's really cool to see that the Ukrainians do have some. And they actually... Oh, wait. Oh. That one slammed down a little too hard right there. You see that? Ooh. The bottom of the hull slammed into the ground pretty much. And so I bet you that was a little bit of a rough bump for the crew members inside of that M113. Check it out, Matthew. I bet some people got whiplash from that. Ooh.
Oh. They kept going at least.
Yeah, they kept trucking. I mean, like, they didn't stop, but I bet you someone got their teeth busted out on that one. Let's see if this one does the same. Oh, it didn't. It went slow enough. They saw the first guy get whiplash, so they slowed down a little bit, but still, really cool to see that the Ukrainians have M113s, and once again, that we're able to confirm that apparently there's a decent amount of them on film. With that, we're finally moving to our last bit of Location Unknown news before we move to the Kharkiv and Belgorod area, where we can see that a boxer, I don't really know a lot about sports, but there's this boxer from Ukraine called Usyk, I believe. Alexander Usyk. This guy is a Ukrainian professional boxer, and if we read right here, I don't know what category he's in, but interestingly enough, he was born in Simferopol, which if we look at the map, Simferopol is the town where we saw that train station that Russians are lined up at to try and leave Ukraine. So right now, his hometown is in the middle of occupied Russian territory. This guy is a Ukrainian patriot through and through as well. And we saw today, in this picture, and I thought it was an incredibly cool one, that Usyk went full Cossack in front of the entire world and wore traditional Cossack wear to a boxing match. We can see it right here. And I gotta say, that is quite an homage to his nation's tradition. And it's really cool, actually, because you don't see a lot of this kind of stuff anymore. You know, you can come from Britain, France, Ukraine, China, Japan, regardless of the political stance, you don't see a lot of people embracing their culture like this anymore. And it's really interesting to see that Usyk literally went the full 9 yards in wearing traditional Cossack gear before this boxing match. It is really neat, I gotta say. And it's honestly, as a history geek and a history nerd, I really like that. I thought that was really cool. And so with that,
And Enforcer, real quick, I want to add that I saw somebody in the live chat say earlier that Usyk actually took a pay cut, supposedly, to allow Ukrainians to watch the fight for free. So obviously, we haven't been able to independently find out if that's true or not. But if it is, that is a real class act.
also, I see a lot of people saying he's pro-Russian, which I would assume.
Usyk.
Yeah, and I have to say that's not true, because if you look at the pictures after the bout, hopefully I don't get copyright strikes for these, but you see here he's got a Ukrainian flag draped over him. So I would have to say that that's unfortunately untrue, because if he was pro-Russian, why is he draped in a Ukrainian flag? That wouldn't make a lot of sense. But still, incredibly cool. I think the fight is over. Let's pull that up. Usyk fight. Usyk, a former undisputed cruiserweight champion, defeated Joshua this past September to win the titles. Let's go to CBS Sports real quick and read this and see who won. Let's see. Ukrainian champion retains title by decision. So he did win. He won and has retained his title as pretty much, I believe at this point, the undefeated cruiserweight champion of the world. And so, much like his, I guess you could say, heavier set friend, oh my god, I forgot his name. What's his name, Matthew? The heavyweight champion, former heavyweight champion, before he got beat by Tyson Fury.
I can't think of it right off the bat.
Oh my god. Trying to think of it, everyone. I'm so sorry. Maybe we can get someone in the live chat to help us out here. I know someone will know his name. Oh, come on. Someone please hurry. I want to know the name. Oh man, I think I'm going to have to just try and pull it up. What's his name? Former heavyweight champions. Klitschko. It was Vitaly Klitschko. Much like his heavier set brother of the boxing world, Vitaly Klitschko, he is also the champion of the world for his weight class, which is incredibly impressive, and it's also great to see that he embraces Ukrainian heritage and history in such a way as this. And so now that we've gotten the answer to that, we're now going to be moving on out of the location unknowns. That was our final bit, and I just thought...
And Enforcer, one thing real quick, I just want to clarify something. I'm seeing multiple people say in the live chat that he was pro-Russian prior to the war starting, but turned pro-Ukraine after the war. And obviously, we don't know if that's true or not. But even if that's true, he did turn around and see after the Russians did that extremely evil act of invading Ukraine. And at least if that is accurate, he realized that he was in the wrong and went pro-Ukraine. But I think there is a particular YouTuber that said that. I would have to say that he's probably wrong about that, because you can't wear a Ukraine flag and then be pro-Russian. That simply doesn't work.
And also, if he was pro-Russian before the war and he is now changed over to be pro-Ukrainian, I'm not going to sit there and hold it against him and beat him down into the dirt now that he's a pro-Ukrainian. He's pro-Ukrainian, and as I see right here, he is pretty much standing there as a representative of his entire nation right now in front of the whole world. And so I'd have to say it's impressive what he's done, and we're now going to be moving on out of the location unknowns and to the Kharkiv front, where we can see today that some Russian tanks were destroyed by some very industrious Ukrainian units. And so here's a video of these Russian tanks getting the short end of the stick. We can see the first tank getting hit. Of course, music playing in the background. When you see in this bit of grainier footage, I've been trying to see what's going... Oh, wait a minute, wow. The Ukrainians have now deployed a brand new weapon. The fly. Just a big old fly on the screen. We now change to more footage. This is once again recorded screen, but we can see Ukrainian artillery coming down onto a small village, and it looks like there was an explosion in there that may have been a Russian tank getting blown up. With that, that's the end of the video, and it is pretty impressive to see that the Ukrainian, as far as we can see right here, 3rd Separate Tank Brigade, along with some TDFs, managed to destroy these vehicles over the past 24 hours. Moving on down towards the center of the salient, we've seen the Foreign Legion in action as well.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
Jeez, that was the most like energy filled inshallah I've ever heard. Let's listen to that. That man blew out a lung.
That was intense.
This man is a part of a hype squad out there somewhere. Let's listen to that one more time. The energy is palpable. The way these guys are cheering, you would have thought they had taken on the world and won. And I'd have to say at this point, considering that the Russians at a time were believed to actually be a formidable military and a formidable nation, they have pretty much taken on the world and won. And it's impressive to know that they still hold the front lines outside of Kharkiv. Moving on from that and into our third video, we can see that an ATGM hit some Russian infantry today, most likely causing a couple of naps to be taken and enlistment contracts to be looked over. And there's the music, but here's the ATGM slamming into the Russians. You can, whoa, wait a minute, that was really cool. They actually filmed it flying in. We can see it get launched right there. And that is the missile. That is nuts.
That is supreme camera work.
That was impressive camera work. Whoever did that needs to start working for Steven Spielberg, because they are an incredible cinematographer, pretty much. We can now see... Oh my god! What was even happening here? This Russian APC, I'm supposing it's a BTR, was driving at 900 miles an hour down the road, went off-road and ran straight into a mine. Oh my gosh. This is a slaughter. Then they got a lone Russian inside of a shed, and that's the end of the video. Once again, pretty good to see that the Ukrainians are inflicting casualties on the Russians, and sometimes the Russians in their own stupidity can end up with disastrous results. So with that, we're now going to be moving out of the Kharkiv front. While we've gotten all of this news today, we haven't seen that there's been major changes to the situation on the front. It doesn't appear that the Ukrainians are pushing the Russians back here, but they are certainly inflicting more casualties that we can confirm on video as of today. Moving on out of the Kharkiv area and into Belgorod, we can see that some Russian IADS have been fired over Belgorod. I'm assuming that very complicated looking abbreviation just stands for air defenses. So here's the video.
Сбили что-то. Вон два. Вот еще одна летит. Вон еще что-то сбили вдалеке. Видишь?
Да, еще.
Вон сбитое что-то. Раз, два попадания. 3-4 попадания.
Смотри, сорвалась прям. Вон, левее, левее.
Missiles continue to fly,
Вон, вижу.
and the Russians all over
Прямо осколки.
know that the war isn't going the way they've been told.
Ну все отработали, ничего не пропустили.
You know, at this point I was just thinking, you know how the Russian families in Ukraine, well, Russian families in Russia, not in Ukraine, they get a lot of money. And I just saw someone in the live chat say this, and I was thinking, with everything that's happening here and all these military installations being hit and how bad the front line's going, you know, the Lada company is just running record high sales this period. Because if we go and look at the Lada company, The official Lada website. Let's go look at Lada. What can we buy from you? Ew, that is an ugly car. What is that supposed to be, like a rip-off GLI? Ew.
Maybe, or like a Toyota of some sort. That looks like a Corolla.
Yeah, choose your car. Granta, Vista, X-Ray. Oh, that's ugly. Oh, wait a minute. That's even uglier. What is this? What are these little indentations on the side? Ew. Largos. What? Wait a minute. Is that just... Oh, okay. Ew, that's even worse.
It's a Ford Transit van.
They're getting worse, comrade. Never travel. What? Okay, that one's kind of decent.
That's better.
That looks kind of like Kia, though. And then finally, you can get Never Legend. Oh my god, it's a real Lada. Oh my god.
It's like a rip-off mini version of a Toyota Land Cruiser.
I think that's the legit Lada. Like, you know, like when we think of a Lada Niva, let me see. I gotta find this out. Images. Oh, this is the real Lada. This just doesn't have the rear trunk to it. It's like I don't know how to explain it, but these things have been around forever. We can even see a model of a cream white Lada Niva from 1980. And it looks like the design has largely remained unchanged, even to this day. Ugh. Man, this is ugly. Also, it's 806,000 rubles to buy one. So let's do some currency translations. Let's see. Ruble to dollar. American dollar. So let's get rid of that. 806,900. 806,900. What?
$13,000.
$13,500. I promise you this thing is a throwaway car. Like, you drive it for 5 miles, and you just crumple it up in your hands and throw it in a trash can or something. Because there's no way you're getting quality out of that car for $13,500. I bet you it doesn't have seatbelts, airbags. You just gotta drive down the road and pray to God above that you don't just go flying out the front windshield if you get in a car crash.
And what's the horsepower figure on that bad boy?
Info about the model.
I'm sure they don't advertise that.
Exterior, interior, comfort, protection.
A performance is not an option on a Lada.
Choose your car. Classic 22, classic. Black. They put that in parentheses. Black ceiling trim. Specific seat upholstery logo. Black. Floor sill cover. 16-inch alloy discs. Blit. Oh my, wait, it doesn't really look like. Okay, here we go. Here's the info we need. 83 horsepower. Jeez, y'all, you're driving around a fancy moped, a 4-wheel moped. Oh my god, this thing does 0 to 60 eventually.
Yeah, like in 1 hour.
Yeah, oh my lord. This is awful. Look at this little engine. It's like a 2-stroke. It is also a torquey engine is exactly what is needed for driving in the city. Why? Why do you need a torquey engine for the city? It is also an excellent means to overcome rough terrain. That's like the total polar opposite of a city. Like, you can drive through the city, or you can drive over your old mountain. Assisting it are low-range gears and an interaxle differential lock. Torque. 129 Nms. Let's pull this.
Enforcer, can you translate that to foot-pounds?
Yes. 129 Mms to foot-pounds?
Yes.
All right. 95.
Oh,
95
that is
pounds
like
horsepower.
nothing in terms of torque.
Let's look at a Ford F1. Well, not a Ford F-150. What would be something comparable to this piece of rubbish? A Jeep?
Punch in the torque of a Toyota Corolla.
Torque?
I'm not saying a Toyota is junk, by the way. It's just a smaller car that might be comparable.
Corolla. Oh my god, it's got like double.
Yes.
Jesus,
There you go.
this thing is useless. You're literally driving around a moped if you drive around a Lada Niva. Like, let's look at the sales pitch they give Russians for this car. There's no way that anyone's really trying to buy this thing. Lada Niva is a legend of world-renowned design. No, it's not. In which each detail is meticulously crafted at $15,000. The short overhangs improve cross-country ability on rugged terrain and facilitate safe parking close to curb. The compact body is the best solution for both city and forest. The curved lines of the hood, doors, and wheel arches are a classic solution. What are you supposed to do? Make the wheel arches square? What type of sales pitch is this? Wait, let's look at the interior. What do they say about this? While maintaining its outstanding off-road features and classic style, we make the popular cross-country vehicle more comfortable, functional, and safe year after year. By modernizing the interior, we also change how you experience the car. That is why the Lada Niva Legend now features new seats, a new dashboard, and new upholstery for the pillars and roof. Now let's see what we got. Updated dashboard that looks like it's from the 90s. Black headliner.
It's not even black.
It's white. It's in the picture. It's white.
And Enforcer, look at that massive shift knob in the middle of the car with that industrial cover over the bottom.
Dude, like you're driving a Kamaz. If you drive a Lada Niva, you can just hop straight in a Kamaz and go like to town. Automatic switching on off DRL. Oh my god. Y'all, they've entered the late 20th century. They finally have automatic headlights. Like I think every car in the United States has that almost by default these days. Low range transmission, and then they show you the 1960s like retro punk like switchings and dials and shift knobs down here. Increases wheel torque. That's all it says. Increases wheel torque. Full power accessories. Oh my god, they got
it. Has power windows. I can't believe that.
They got power windows, guys. It's over. We've lost. The West is far behind. Comfortable front seats that look like park benches. And then we have the dashboard again. We're not even going to go over the rest of this, but this is sad. This is terribly sad. And I didn't know that Ladas were this terrible, but this means that Russian soldiers are dying for literally nothing. Their family can't even get a nice car out of the whole thing. They get some garbage like a Lada Niva. I would hate to live.
Enforcer, and Enforcer, real quick, just a historical question, just out of curiosity. I know the Volkswagen was created to be the people's car in Germany. Was the Lada created on the same concept?
The Lada was kind of created around that concept, but interestingly enough, it wasn't designed by Soviet car engineers, I guess you could say. It's actually a license-built version of a Fiat 6614, I believe. Fiat 6614 versus a Lada. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. The 6614 is some kind of anti-tank thing. Fiat 124, that's the actual one, versus a Lada. And here they are side by side, so that way I could show you, Matthew, a little bit of car history. This is a Fiat, and I believe that's the Lada. And you can see they're literally identical. It's a license-built copy. So this thing isn't even Russian in its original design. It's actually a Fiat. But it was still, the concept of it was something closer to a people's car, but even at that, the amount of Ladas they would produce was certainly not enough for almost every Soviet family, or even the minority of Soviet families, to have at least one car. This is something that was more reserved for party members and stuff like that. So with that, now that we've gone over a little bit of interesting Lada history, we're now going to be moving out of this video near Belgorod, and also out of this section of news altogether. It is, of course, interesting to see that the Ukrainians continue to attack deep into Russian territory, and not just at Belgorod, but also at Timanovo and other places within Russian territory. With that, we're now going to be moving down to the last bit of news that we have for the night, which will include the Donbas in its entirety, and then the speech from President Zelensky. But before we get to all that, we're going to answer 3 questions from the chat, and then we'll be on to our last segment of news. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and before we get to our next Super Chat segment, up first we have to discuss the poll. And the question is, do you think the Ukrainian military is as effective, efficient, and competent as the U.S. military? And this poll was not meant to get into the budgets, because obviously they're much different, but competence. So it looks like 40% of you said, no, they fight well, but are not the same. 34% said somewhat, but not completely, and 26% said, yes, they are very comparable. Now, on this one, I'm going to have to say I stand with the 40% that said no. And I also agree that they do fight very well and very hard. And for what they do have in resources, they are very effective. But compared to the U.S. military, they are just simply not comparable, in my opinion. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
I would have to actually agree with the 40%. I don't think the Ukrainians do incredibly well in implementing Western doctrine, but there's not a lot of stuff there that would make them as effective, efficient, and competent. One thing that is certainly not there is the equipment. And you know, I'm sure that some people are about to make the counter that, well, they're fighting the Russians and they're winning, so they must have some kind of competent equipment. And, you know, the Ukrainians are literally fighting a mirror of themselves that is just larger in terms of equipment. And now with their Western technology, like M777s, HIMARS, and so on, they are better off than the Russians. But still, in that terms of equipment, they certainly do not have the Air Force, the attack helicopters, or I guess you could say the combined arms effort to do what the United States could really do in a war. That's why if you look at the Gulf War, where Iraq took almost as many casualties as the Russians have at this point, you'll notice that coalition casualties are practically non-existent. Because those numbers are about as exact as they can get. We can see, of course, that the coalition forces actually outnumber the Iraqis just by a little, much like the Russians did in this current Ukrainian war. But the coalition only took 292 killed over the course of 6 months, 3 weeks, and 5 days versus Iraq's 20 to 50,000. Right now, as far as we can tell, Ukrainian casualties are somewhere around a quarter of the Russians. And so with the Russians taking around 45,000 casualties, let's do the math real quick. 45,000 times 0.25. That means that the Ukrainians have most likely taken somewhere around 11,250 casualties, which shows that while they are definitely beating the Russians through and through, they still don't have that kind of integration of technology and doctrine that the United States had to dominate the Iraqis in the Gulf War. Although it could be, questioned whether the Iraqis were a competent fighting force or not when you really look at it. But with that, I hope that does answer the question, at least to the best of my abilities, with the poll, because I honestly just think that while they're doing really good, the Western doctrine is being implemented well, they cannot compare to the U.S. military. The U.S. military is on a pedestal of its own right now. And so with that, we are on to the questions themselves. I just forgot we were at polls there, and we weren't on any actual question yet. And so with that, we're now going to move into the question.
All right, to address our first super chat of the segment, we have a whopping $100 donation from Dutch R. Jen, who does not leave a comment. But Dutch, thank you very much for that very generous support. And Enforcer, I know you want to add a few words.
And you know I've got to add a few words. And I thank you so much, Dutch R. Jen, for the support. And I can't believe that you didn't add a comment. I think that's like the first time he's ever sent in a super chat.
I think that might be the third or fourth time, actually.
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
Well, if it is, regardless whether it's the first or the third or the fourth, I hate that you didn't leave a comment because I would love to add a little bit more to it and, of course, try and answer a question. But still, I thank you so much for the support. And I know that it has to be accompanied somewhere by kind words. I'm sure that you'll say them in the live chat soon. And I've got to thank you so much for the kind words and also for helping us to keep this stream going. And so thank you so much for the wonderful amount of support. And with that, we're now going to be moving on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
And next up, we have a $50 super chat from Mr. Burt in Ernie, who says, "Hey, Enforcer, have you seen this new drone that Taiwan has sent to Ukraine? Holy schmoly. I tried to send a link, but no worky."
Taiwan drone sent to Ukraine. Taiwan sends drones to Ukraine. Taiwan's Revolver 860. That's quite a name. I like that name. That's cool. So let's pull up the images here. Whoa. Wait a minute. That's that drone, Matthew. Remember at the beginning of the war when the Ukrainians came up with a cradle that would carry the bomblets and it would revolve and drop one out of the bottom? Apparently the Taiwanese have started to mass produce these things. That is really impressive. Yeah, that is really cool. Unfolded dimensions is about a meter wide and about a half meter tall. So, wow, that thing's actually kind of big. It's about 3 feet wide, about 1.5 feet tall. That thing's bigger than a corgi. And so it's carrying quite a whopping bit of firepower, I'd assume, too. Probably about 6 bomblets, considering it's a revolving kind of cylinder. So I'm assuming the best number would be around 6. But
It
wow.
looks really well built too, I have to admit.
Yeah, I really do have to say, it looks like the Taiwanese have really made these things well. And so thank you so much for the support and also sharing that with us, because while we'd seen this technology at the beginning of the war, I never saw any follow through on it until right now. And now all the pieces are coming together in my head, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's that tech that they were coming up with at the very start. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support and also letting us know what this thing is. And honestly, it looks like it's a barrel that has motors attached to it, but it's really neat nonetheless. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment, and thank you so much for sharing that with us, because I hadn't heard about that until right now. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you very much once again.
And up next, we have a $50 super chat from John Dameron, who says, thanks for the great work each evening.
And thank you so much for the support, John, and also those incredibly kind words. I thank you so much for the support, and I thank you for enjoying what we do, because it means a lot to me to hear that people do actually like our streams and enjoy watching them. And also, if y'all would like to let us know that you really do enjoy watching these streams, hitting the like button lets us know. It also helps us out in the algorithms and the analytics. So not only are you showing that you enjoy this stream a lot, but you're also letting YouTube know that others may enjoy our streams as well, and let it reach out to even more people. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, John. It does mean a lot to us, both in the super chat and your kind words, because it lets us know that what we're doing is good. You want us to keep on going, and you're also letting us know yourself that you really do enjoy it. And so thank you so much once again, and I hope I was able to address that comment fairly well. And so with that, we are on to the final question of this segment, and after we answer that question, we'll then be moving on into our final segment of news before our last question segment of the night. And so, what is the final question of this little segment?
And the last one of the segment goes to Denise Riches, who puts in a $40 super chat, but sadly, without a comment. So, thank you very much, Denise, for your very generous support while I step all over my words, and we appreciate you very much. And the Enforcer is going to add a few words to it, and then we're going to round out the segment.
And I got to thank you so much for your support as well. It does mean a lot to us that people want our channel to keep on running, and also help us to keep the lights on, and also to make sure that we don't have to go on to food stamps. It means a lot to me, and I thank you so much for the support and helping us to keep on doing this as a full-time job. All of y'all's support, because this takes up about 50 hours a week. All of y'all's support allows me to keep on pummeling away at this stuff like it really is a job, and hammering out the news and the information every single day. And so I thank you so much for that alone, and helping me to continue on our work, fundraising, and also reporting. And so with that, we've now reached the end of this little question segment, and we're moving on into the final one of the night, starting off near Izium, where we saw a drone vaporize a couple of Russians. So here's the video. We can see the drone looking down at these Russian soldiers. We can see that a bomblet apparently exploded, and one of them fell over. We can see the other soldier run a little ways, and it now appears that he has also fallen over, and then the third soldier popped up out of the brush, and it looks like he was largely unscathed. But that drone did claim a couple of extra Russians, but unfortunately, we don't know of any Ukrainian progress in this area as of now, and I believe the front line may have stabilized, because we haven't been hearing much about that beyond this point. Moving on out of the Izium area and towards Lysychansk, where we've also not heard a lot of news of heavy activity or fighting, we've also heard here that Austrian mortars, 60mm Austrian mortars, are being used. And we can see these right here. These are called an M6. These are a 60mm lightweight infantry mortar. And it's a really cool one, too. The infantry mortars are usually not really talked about a lot, and I kind of find that actually sad, because these smaller mortars, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain them. These smaller mortars can be more adaptive to the situation on the front. So if an infantry unit comes into a firefight and they need artillery right now, these little 60mm mortars, while much smaller in their firepower, can still pack quite a punch very quickly and effectively, usually landing within meters of their target. And so it's impressive to see that they're still using these on the front line, and I hope that we see that Western countries note that the smaller artillery pieces, like these infantry mortars, do need to be sent to Ukraine as well, so that way the infantry can have some very quick and responsive artillery that can pretty much change what the situation is needed. And so with that, We are now moving on to the next bit of news from the area, moving on down towards the Bakhmut region near Popasna, where we can see a Russian helicopter get shot down on film. This helicopter was shot down by the 15th Independent Mountain Assault Battalion. When you see the helicopter right there on film, it's that kind of like few pixels that are moving around. Wait a minute, there was two. We were actually looking at the wrong one. The helicopter that we're wanting to look at is more towards the ground, right there. It got hit, it rolls over, and slams into the ground into a massive fireball. The black smoke of death begins to billow up, and I don't really think we need the black smoke of death to know that a helicopter getting hit, rolling over, and slamming into the ground at high speed usually is not good for its longevity nor structural integrity, and so I'd have to largely say that the helicopter's been taken out. With that, that's the end of the video, and it is pretty cool to see that the Ukrainians were able to take down a helicopter on film today. Moving way back behind the lines to a village called Slovyan-Obsersk, where you can see that an explosion occurred, and from what the caption says, this was on the Luhansk Regional Military Administration. Well, actually, correction, let me read the title off so that way I can make sure to get this correct. Head of Luhansk Regional Military Administration, Serhiy Haidai, reported a strike on an occupier's repair base in the Slovyanovsersk district. So this is a repair base that is smoldering in the film.
Poor dog.
Yeah, poor things having to suffer through. Well, not really suffer through it, but hear the noises in the distance, which are probably freaking it out. With that, that's the end of the video, and it is pretty cool to see that the Ukrainians were able to hit a repair base behind the lines, letting us know that the few Russian vehicles that are actually recovered are most likely smoldering and burning right now and will never return back to the front. Moving on out of that bit of news and more down into the Donetsk region of the front line, we can see at Svitlodarsk today, a Russian BMP-2 also cooked off as well. When you see that BMP-2 snap, crackling, and popping, the black smoke of death coming out of the top, the tank has certainly been destroyed at this point, and we are just watching the aftermath of it slowly, pretty much dying off. And now that we're watching this, I feel like some of that, like that clip right there, I think we've seen that before. Well, that's the end of the video, and regardless whether it's old or new, it is good to see that Ukrainian units still are raining down the fire and taking out Russian units left and right. With that, we're now going to be moving out of the Donbas, pretty much in general, as far as we view it and think of it, and I'm going to address something real quick before we get to our last bit of news before President Zelensky's speech. Oddly enough today, there was not a lot of news that came from the front lines themselves. If you notice here, if we look at this area of the front, which is where all of our news came from today, there were 3 bits of news in Kharkiv and around 4 bits of news in the Seversk, Slovyansk, and Bakhmut area. And then beyond that, there is no news from anywhere. We didn't get any news on the southern front, any news in Donetsk. We didn't get any news near Kherson, and we're not exactly sure why. It's kind of odd today that no videos came out from these areas. They have been areas of heavy fighting, especially for the Russians in the Donetsk area, as it appears that they're starting to try and conduct more like offensives, pushing out of the area and into heavily defended Ukrainian defenses here. But we didn't see any of that today, and I have to say, it's incredibly odd. And so before I have to go and cover each one of those segments individually, we've got no news from these 3 entirely separate areas of the front lines: Kherson, the southern front, and Donetsk. And so, with that, moving down into the Mariupol area, we've gotten some pretty interesting news of another assassination attempt being conducted against a Russian military governor of Mariupol. Russian propagandists report that there was an assassination attempt on the collaborator Konstantin Ivashchenko, who has been appointed as the head of the Mariupol administration by the Russian occupiers. Unfortunately, as far as the report goes, he survived. But here's the video of a Russian medical vehicle in the area where we're assuming the assassination attempt was made. That's the end of that video, and it is good to know that the Ukrainians are not taking this lying down even behind the lines as they try and conduct assassination attempts and partisan attacks everywhere where there is opportunity. And so with that, now having covered all of the news from the front lines and around Ukraine and in Russia, it is now time to return to Kyiv, where we started off around the beginning of the stream, and listen to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky. And so without further ado, here is his speech.
Здоров'я, шановні українці. Активно готуємось до нового тижня, дуже важливого для усіх нас, для нашої держави. Попереду День нашого прапора, День нашої незалежності, попереду вшанування ветеранів війни за свободу України, попереду Кримська платформа. Цього року справді особлива. Цього року буквально в повітрі Криму відчувається, що окупація там тимчасова, а Україна повертається. Обов'язково відзначимо наших легенд, це є і буде українською традицією. Відзначимо тих, чиє життя стало частиною нашої національної історії, яку вже не стерти нікому, ніколи, жодному ворогу. На наступний тиждень, як завжди, заплановані важливі переговори і візити справжніх друзів України. Попереду знаковий рубіж. Півроку цього повномасштабного вторгнення, війни, яка змінила все і для України, і для Європи, і для світу. Звичайно, ще буде час сказати про це, сказати детально, але давайте все ж таки сьогодні замислимось, поглянемо, оцінимо, який шлях нами пройдено, скільки всього вдалося змінити того, про що майже всі у світі думали, що нібито неможливо змінити, скільки всього вдалося вирвати у російської армії, про яку десятиліттями думали, що вона нібито нездоланна. Я пригадую перші дні повномасштабного вторгнення, пригадую, що мені тоді говорили, радили різні порадники. Знаю, що багатьом з них тепер соромно за ці слова, які тоді звучали. За час від 24 лютого, за ці 178 днів, українці довели, що це наш народ нездоланий, це наші захисники, захисниці нездоланні. Я дякую всім, хто проявив свою силу за цей час. Дякую всім, хто боровся, бореться за Україну. Дякую всім, хто воює, допомагає нашим воїнам, нашій державі. Наша єдність, наша віра у себе дозволили пройти ці півроку і підійти до цього тижня незмінно важливого для кожного українця. Ми завжди говорили чесно і говоримо чесно заради перемоги України. Ще потрібно боротись, ще потрібно зробити дуже багато, ще потрібно вистояти. Витерпіти, на жаль, багато болю, але українці вже можуть по праву відчувати гордість за себе, за свою державу, за своїх героїв. І давайте сьогодні ми всі разом це відчуємо, яка сила є в нашому народі, в наших людях прекрасних. Ця сила завжди була і буде стільки, скільки ми будемо вірити у себе, скільки ми будемо зберігати нашу єдність, стільки, скільки ми будемо боротися за Україну, і стільки, скільки ми будемо працювати заради нашої спільної української перемоги. Ми маємо бути свідомі того, що цього тижня Росія може постаратись зробити щось особливо гидке, щось особливо жорстоке. Такий у нас ворог, але і будь-який інший тиждень за ці півроку Росія робила те саме постійно, гидке і жорстоке. Одне з ключових завдань ворога – принизити нас, українців, знецінити наші можливості, наших героїв, поширити зневіру, страх, поширити конфлікти. Тому важливо ніколи, жодної хвилини не поступатися цьому ворожому тиску, не накручувати себе, не проявляти слабкості. Ми всі маємо бути достатньо міцними, щоб протистояти будь-яким ворожим провокаціям стільки, скільки потрібно, щоб змусити окупантів відповісти за всі свої удари і за той терор, за Харків, за Донбас, за Азовсталь, за Миколаїв, за фільтраційні табори, за Бучу, Ірпінь, за всі міста. Ми всі маємо бути достатньо міцними, щоб вистояти і пройти увесь шлях до української перемоги. Тому тримаємось разом, допомагаємо одне одному, відновлюємо зруйноване, боремось за усіх наших людей і вболіваємо за тих, хто представляє Україну. Сьогодні обов'язково за Уська, наш хлопець. Віримо у себе, віримо в Україну. Слава кожному з вас і кожній. Слава Україні!
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Zelensky here on day 178 of the news. And that wraps up our news segment for the day. We're now about to be moving into the question segment, but if you were here for the news alone, I thank you all, each and every one of you, so much for watching and enjoying us as your daily source of news on the war in Ukraine. I just looked at the subscriber count during President Zelensky's speech, and I have noticed that there is cause for celebration, as our channel has just reached 93,004 subscribers, finally passing the 93,000 mark. So good job, everyone. The Leaf Spring Army has grown another 1,000 subscribers, and we are on the way to 100,000. We are only 7,000 subscribers away now, and it is honestly impressive to think that this channel has come so far, and the Leaf Spring Army has grown so large over these past few months. And so with that, we are now moving into the final question segment of the night, but before we get there, I know that Matthew has some interesting polls to go over, and so with that, let's hear about those polls, Matthew.
All right, folks, and first up, our first poll, and actually only poll to cover at the moment, and the question was, from a car standpoint, would you buy a Lada, putting aside our dislike of Russia for just a brief moment? So it looks like 85% of you said no, it is a lemon, piece of junk, and 15% said yes, I would buy for the price. Now, for me personally, I actually would buy one for the price, putting aside my dislike of Russia. But including that dislike, I would never buy a Lada. But just for $13,000, that's not too bad. You're basically buying a motorcycle with a car disguised over it.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see here. Brand. 1 minute. Models. Let's go look at it. Let's go look at the... they're all so ugly. The Granta family. Wow, that thing's cheaper than the Neva Legend. How could he get cheaper? We do not accept cookies from a Russian website. I will not click that.
Never.
Contemporary, technologically sophisticated. What do they call technologically sophisticated? I'm scared to find out. Let's see here. Info about the model. The Lada Granta does not need to prove anything. It has already earned the trust of more than 1 million motorists, that's it, and has been tested by our roads. Not adapted, but developed specifically for Russian conditions, Lada Granta is self-confident on any day, on every kilometer of the way. Increased suspension travel, special chassis settings, and a host of modern technologies make driving comfortable and safe in the city, on the highway, and on winding dirt roads. Notice how in Russian pitches on cars, every single one of them makes the point that these things can travel on dirt roads. That's because there's a lot of dirt roads in Russia because the country doesn't have the budget nor the ability to pave as many roads as you would find here in the United States that are paved. So that's why you'll notice in every single one of these sales pitches, they are mentioning dirt roads. And thanks to a wide dealer network and a 3-year warranty, Lada Granta owners are provided with constant support in any corner of the country. Lada Granta is a stylish and compact, practical and versatile assistant, ally and friend. The one you can always rely on, trust 100%. So let's see large mirrors, the selling point for the Lada. Optics. What? Wait a minute, headlights are a selling point for this car? Oh, look, guys. Look, guys, this car is like no other. It's got headlights. Alloy wheels. A contrasting...
Standard.
Oh, look at the sales pitch on it. A contrasting style and expressive spokes. Yes, I really do speak through my spokes. If it wasn't for my spokes, I wouldn't feel like a real man. And And then it goes back to large mirrors. That's their only selling points on this car. Emergency alert system. Doesn't every car have that now? Automatic transmission. That's actually interesting that it has an automatic transmission and it's cheaper than the Lada Niva. Wait a minute, that's their only two selling points on this car in the interior is the emergency alert system and the automatic transmission. That's it. That's all you get, man. Like, forget the rest of it. Comfort. Electric drive. And once again, another big selling point. Rain and light sensors. I mean, are they even trying anymore? This is... anyways. Driver's seat with a micro lift. It's just a lever. Like a normal car has in America. They're acting like they're really redefining the car in Russia, but this has literally been in America for like 40 years. Oh my god. Cruise control. Oh my god. They've made it. Heated windshield. Central locking with remote control. No longer do you have to shove a key into the door to lock it. You can lock it with a key fob. It's not like any other country in the world or any other car manufacturers have that. And then they also have a multimedia screen, which honestly is kind of nice. Some cars in America still don't have that. Climate says, oh, they got air conditioning. Oh, man, it's just so stupid. The whole thing's just stupid. Let's go down here and let's see if we can get... Oh, my lord. 90 horsepower. And also 143 NMs. 143 NMs to foot-pounds. That's 105 foot-pounds. Still less than a Toyota Corolla. Pitiful. Pitiful. This is just... And it's ugly. It's everything they do is terrible. Lada is awful. I would not get one. Even this one's terrible. With that, we are now on to... out of the poll and into the questions.
Should we get a Lada to destroy it and just absolutely torture test it?
No, because like a Lada in the United States costs like $40,000, and I'm not paying $40,000 for that garbage.
Absolutely not. But anyways, moving on to our first super chat of the final segment, we have a $40 donation from Mark, who says supposedly 800 of those Taiwan drones are being sent, and it drops true mortar shells, not bomblets. I think 6 to 8 of them.
Well, thank you so much for clarifying that, Mark, because I thought it was bomblets, but I did see some people say that there was something like 60mm mortar shells, kind of like that Austrian light mortar was firing, and if so, 8 of those per drone, 800 drones, that means that there would be, let me do some math, 8 times 800, that whole fleet of drones would be able to carry 6,400 60mm mortar rounds at a time if all of them were airborne in a single instant. And that is an overwhelming amount of firepower, especially when you don't even have to fire the drone and hope it falls in the area of the tank. You can just look straight down the tank and drop the thing onto it. So that's honestly really impressive, and I thank you so much for clarifying that for us, Mark, and also the huge amount of support, because that not only helps this channel keep on running, so that way we can keep on, having to go back and sometimes make corrections, but also it helps us to know what those drones are actually capable of. And 800 of those is nothing to scoff at. That's an impressive number. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and also clarifying that for us. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And next up, we have a $20 super chat from Santiago Flores, who says the Ukrainian militaries are being good poker players, not showing their hand and throwing the Russians off with these attacks on Crimea, bringing the war to the Russian people.
And that is true, and I have to say that the Russians are playing chess and the Ukrainians are playing 4D chess. I don't know if y'all have ever heard about 4D chess, but there's some game on Steam that allows you to play through the 3 dimensions, including the 4th dimension, which is time. So you can go back in time and forward in time. It's crazy. It's an insane game that I've never got or played, but I've heard enough about it to know it's too much for me. But still, the Ukrainians are playing 4D chess right now with what they're doing with the Russians, and they are causing a whole entire area that the Russians consider theirs, through and through, true to the last. It is Russia's, according to Russia, and they are causing the entire place to go into a nuclear meltdown, pretty much, in terms of what the people are having to deal with and what they're seeing. And so with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much once again for saying that, because I would have to agree that the Ukrainians are going well, like, into overkill mode on freaking the Russians out. And I gotta say, there's really no such thing as overkill on that. And so, we're on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And next up, we have a $20 super chat from Gary Robbins, who says, I am back from a family reunion where we had only one dial-up coverage. Missed you both.
Well, thank you so much for the support, and it's good to hear that you're back. Welcome back. It's, of course, great to have you back. We love to know that all of our viewers are still here and watching, because we care about each and every one of y'all. We may not be able to respond to all of y'all, but we do notice when people go missing, and we're always wondering where y'all are. So it's good to have you back, and I hope you've been enjoying tonight's stream. And also, thank you so much for the kind words, because it does mean a lot, and thank you so much once again. And I do love to know that people enjoy this channel, and so I thank you for saying that to us. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And next up, we have a $20 super chat from Master Chief 117, who says, I would like an unbiased counter-argument to the one posed by geopolitical analyst Peter Zihan, who, despite being a Ukraine supporter, thinks that Ukraine is doomed since the U.S. will run out of weapons to send very soon.
I don't understand why people keep on saying the United States will run out of weapons. That doesn't make any sense. They're acting like weapons are a non-renewable resource. Weapons can be manufactured, and Peter Zihan. Peter Zihan on geopolitics. Let's look at this. New book.
Oh, he's got a new book.
Yeah. It's always a book. Everyone does books, don't they? I like that illustration, though. That's a nice illustration. Get to know Peter Zihan. Oh, I can't play
one
stuff.
thing that you need to understand.
No, turn off. It might be copyrighted. I can't play stuff. Know your world. What about this? I don't. Well, what about Ukraine? Know your world, number 34, Houston. Like, it's just like a huge segment of the world is Houston. But where in the world is Ukraine? Number 55 is the USS Enterprise, which has already been decommissioned years ago. Anything on Ukraine? I don't... Okay. Let me go back. Oh, someone just said, Big Connect! I don't know why, but I just found that funny. On Ukraine. I need to see his exact argument to make sure that I make a counter that actually makes sense. The Russian coup question. Let's see. Russia preparing for the next war. Prepping for the next war.
It looks like many of you in the live chat are saying that Peter Zihan is solid and very accurate. And I'll be honest, I've never actually heard of the guy, but yeah, maybe he is. I'm not really sure though.
I don't really know a lot about Zihan. This is the first time I've heard about him. But one thing I do have to say is that just because an expert says something does not mean I'm bound to it. Experts at the beginning of this war were saying that Ukraine wouldn't last longer than a week, and I'm still here and they're not. And the Ukrainians are still here and they're still existing. So just because someone is an expert doesn't mean they know everything. And with that statement that the guy made, saying that the U.S. is going to run out of weapons, it almost seems like he's not considering that the United States could just manufacture more arms and equipment. It's not like the defense industry over here would refuse to do such a thing. That's how they make their money and their profits. And so it's incentivized pretty much, especially through lobbying here in the U.S., that the U.S. government ramps up production of weapons at this time because the defense industry can make a good amount of money off of it. And so with that, I hope that kind of addresses my standpoint on that, because the guy may know a lot. He may be an expert, and he may be writing some very well-researched and reputable documents out there that I couldn't argue with. But in this one instance, I would have to disagree and say that Ukraine will win in the end, because U.S. support is probably never going to stop, because there's really nothing stopping America from just producing more weapons. And so with that, I hope that answers the question, and thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And moving on, we now have a $20 super chat from Psyops, who says, I really never want to play horseshoes with those drone pilots or lawn darts because no one would survive. Joke of the day, I always knew smoking was deadly, but I never expected that much shrapnel. Also, Texas stinks.
Psyops, you're killing me with this. He did this earlier, Matthew. We were in a Discord trying out something new, a new feature for the server, and he hopped in, and we brought him up on stage, and in front of like 10 people, he said like, thank you for Enforcer for the channel, and said some other stuff, and then at the end he said also Texas sucks, and then he got off the stage.
Why does he have a beef with Texas though?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like, Oklahoma City did look nice. We never looked at Texan towns, I believe. I think we looked at Houston though. Yeah, no, we looked at Dallas. What about Houston? We didn't look at Houston. Bull. I'm calling bull, man. Everywhere can't look better than our place. I mean, like, this is just bull. I've heard so many bad things about all of these towns, like Los Angeles, Houston, Dallas, Oklahoma City. I've heard terrible things about all of them. All of them look better than where we are, because not a lot of people talk badly about Birmingham, but if you drop down in here, like right about here, I guess you could say, it doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like anywhere else. I don't know why. I mean, anyways, I thank you so much once again for the support, Psyops. And also, could you reread that first part again real quick?
And yes, that first part was, I really never want to play horseshoes with those drone pilots or lawn darts because no one would survive.
I don't think anyone would survive if you played lawn darts. Lawn darts are dangerous. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Psyops. And also, thank you for continuing on your bit, which is just hating on Texas. I don't say that Texas is a terrible place. Honestly, everywhere looks pretty nice in the U.S. And, you know, and at the same time, it's become a common trend amongst everyone these days as kind of a critique. Everyone in America says that everywhere else looks better than America. And when we drop down in Street View, in most American towns that are not Birmingham, Alabama, it looks incredibly nice. It looks like anywhere else in the world for the most part. But with that, I hope that does address the comment once again, Psyops, and thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running as much as you have. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from W, who says, I am so impressed with that the Ukrainians have pulled off lately. It blows my mind, and it also blows up airfields, ammo dumps, headquarters, buildings, vacations, and so much more.
And thank you so much for the support. And I'm honestly blown away with what the Ukrainians have been doing recently, too. No one believed that the Ukrainians would start reaching out from a defensive and go on the offensive with anything for that matter. And not only have they been conducting counterattacks successfully, but now they're conducting missile attacks deep into Russian territory and also drone attacks successfully as well. And I've got to say, it blows me away to see that the Ukrainians are taking the initiative on this, and that they may be turning the tide of the war, especially in the southern front, with these behind-the-line attacks, especially on the Black Sea Fleet and the Russian Air Force, because without either of those, the ground forces there don't have any support. And so with that, I hope that addresses the question, the comment fairly well, and thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 donation from Telmed, who says, sorry I missed a couple of days. Did you see the Ukrainian soldier singing Unstoppable through a man-pad tube?
Telmed, for missing a few days, your punishment is welcome back. Welcome back, Tellman. And of course, it's good to have you back. It's totally fine if you missed a couple of days. Everyone's got real life going on out there, and I don't want y'all to feel like you're obligated, although we do miss you. I don't want y'all to feel obligated like y'all have to be in here or you're like prisoners or anything. But to address that, I have unfortunately not seen that video of him singing through the man-pad tube. It will be cool, though, if I eventually find it, and so thank you so much for the support. Unfortunately, I haven't seen that video, but I will try, and with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and moving on, we have a $20 super chat from B4 Bodge, I think so, who says, "Thank you for your work."
And thank you, Hodge, for your support as well. It helps us out a great deal, and it helps us to keep this channel running. And thank you so much for the kind words. And it's so nice to hear that a lot of people do enjoy these streams, and I thank you so much for it. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, Justice Ryan puts in a $20 donation and says, "Will NATO and the U.S. put up most of the billions to rebuild Ukraine after the war? I was going to include Russia, but they'll probably be near bankrupt."
The Russians would probably not rebuild Ukraine just because they would be the losing party in the war at that point. But NATO and the United States especially will probably step forward and brunt most of the cost in rebuilding Ukraine, because those economic investments that NATO and the United States makes into Ukraine is making Ukraine more connected internationally with the alliance and also the United States, and therefore makes them more lenient towards our interests and our wishes, which is something that the United States is looking to observe every single day. I know a lot of people don't think in that context, but the United States only supports Ukraine because supporting Ukraine is in our best interest strategically. If for example, to kind of give example, we are in Syria because that's in our best interest. The Middle East is something we're heavily involved in because a lot of oil production revolves in this area. And of course, the modern world lives on oil. And as another example, you will see that the United States was hardly involved in the South Sudanese conflict, and we are not even in Burma right now with the clashes that are going on in between the government forces and pretty much the military junta that's trying to overthrow them. So with that, you can kind of see that the United States is always trying to look out for its interests, and that it only selects wars that will make sure to further it. And so, to once again circle back to answer that question, Ukraine and investing heavily in their rebuilding will definitely interest the United States in the long run, and so they are certainly most likely going to be the one who does that. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, and thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from W, once again, who says, "When they get the 2,000 tanks, can we do a montage of Stugnas, javelins, artillery, and mines to commemorate it?"
Maybe. That would be a pretty cool idea to do. It's always hard to find the time to do this sort of stuff, and considering that I do have to go to a couple of my classes in person this next semester, I really didn't have a choice, so I had to take the in-person classes. I'm not really sure if I'll have the time to do it, but I will be looking into it. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, and thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Compound David, who says, "The Lada looks like a sports car compared to my 1986 Yugo."
1986 Yugo. 1986.
And punch up a picture of that bad boy Yugo.
Oh.
There she is.
There she blows. Oh, goodness me. Oh, my God. That is... I hate to say it, man, but that ain't a looker.
And pull up a picture of a gremlin.
A gremlin car. Gremlin. Ah! Gremlin!
Oh.
Ooh!
There's a gremlin.
Oh my God. Oh.
They're all along the same design concept.
Anatomy of a gremlin. Look at this man. He has his freaking feet shoved into the transmission. Oh. Oh, that's awful. And look at this. They're like, you can make a tight squeeze, but a golden retriever can fit with the contour of his back perfectly aligned with the back angle of the rear hatch of the car.
Wait, are they giving you like an interior picture of the dog's liver?
No,
What
no,
is that?
that's like an inflatable ball or something.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell what that was.
The dog's liver. It's just hanging out. It's an eldritch horror of beyond imagination. Oh my god, these gremlins, man. They are ugly. Oh my lord. Are there any other ugly? Wait a minute. The new American car, the Pacer. Let the Pacer car. Let's pull that one up. Oh, this is a crime. This is a crime against humanity. If they put this thing in the Nuremberg trials, I mean, not the Nürburgring trials, that would be a racetrack. If they put this thing up at the Nuremberg trials, this thing would have been hung. This is the ugliest car we've seen so far tonight. It is terrible. This looks like a funeral parlor car, the hearse. This is awful.
Also, don't forget to pull up the Ford Pinto. Oh, look at that!
Wait a minute! I forgot. That's copyrighted. That's Disney stuff. We might get sued.
Oh, yep.
So we'll skip. Oh, wait a minute. There's more of them. Oh, Weenie Dog. All right. I'll give that poor Weenie Dog a pass. It's got bad owners. The first wide small car. That is the first ugly small car that ever existed. Ew.
That's a look into the minds of the people that designed it.
What the hell is this ad? What is this supposed to be? You're quiet over there, Matthew. What is this supposed to be?
The car is driving over the woman's dress. I'm not really sure what the symbolism is here.
I don't know what this is. Can anyone answer what kind of marketing department came up with this ad? Because it doesn't make any sense. Oh, God. There's another copyright strike. There's more of them. We're leaving the Pacer. There's apparently a lot of copyright landmines in here. But, ooh. I thank you for the support, but I hate to say it. That Yugo is not a looker. I hate to say that. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. We are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to the next one. We have our next super chat, which is from Ruben Coolidge, who sends in a $10 donation and says, Slava Ukraine.
Slava Ukraini. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping our channel to keep on covering this news. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Richard Daniel Jr., who says, great job tonight, guys, as usual, and thank y'all.
Well, thank you so much for the support, Richard. Of course, it means a lot to us. And also, you put that in all caps, which means that there is maximum emphasis on that. So allow me, Matthew, real quick, to take over your job for a second and read this off the way it should be read. Great job tonight, guys, as usual. Thank y'all. And so with that, thank you so much once again, Richard, for the support. And I thank you so much for enjoying tonight's stream. We are, of course, highly honored by the kind words, and I thank you so much. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from M. Adams, who says, thank you all for your hard work, truly an inspiring commitment.
And thank you so much for enjoying the effort we put into it. I'm glad that it is inspiring. I'd hate to think that this is uninspiring, but I try my best to make sure that we cover this news every single day of the week. We have done it without fail, except for one single day where our internet completely gave out and we couldn't run a stream that night. And I still have nightmares about that night. But I thank you so much for enjoying our commitment and also our coverage of the news. And so with that, we are probably on to the next one. And thank you so much once again, and for all the kind words that everyone, including you, has given to this channel. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, a big shout out to Big Tex for putting in a $10 donation, but without a comment. But thank you very much for your support of the channel. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from VJ Mari, who says, going to see destroyed Russian vehicles and 24 August, National Day, a natural target for Russian attack, don't you think?
I'm going to be honest. When I heard that the Ukrainians are planning something big for the 24th of August, I threw that under the same category as the 9th of May. Because if you've been around long enough, everyone will remember, oh, the 9th of May, oh my God, the 9th of May, Putin's going to do something big, the 9th of May. And if y'all don't know, that's Victory Day in Europe for the Russians. It's May 8th for everyone else. It's May 9th for them. And everyone was saying that the Russians were going to declare an all-out war. They were going to send the whole army into Ukraine on May 9th. They were just going to floor them. And honestly, I feel like this whole August 24th thing is kind of under that same category. It wouldn't make sense to revolve your military campaign around national holidays. That's in my opinion. There's not a lot of historical precedent for people doing that. And so I don't think it will happen. And so with that, I hope that does address my thoughts on the whole August 24th thing, because I think August 24th is going to come by and nothing is going to happen. But then again, I could be wrong. It could be that this is the first of its kind, and it actually does happen on a national holiday. But with that, I hope that does answer the question, and thank you so much once again for the support. And remember, it's just my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. I may be entirely wrong, or it may turn out I'm right. Who knows? And only time will tell. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Spam Hoffen, who says, is it animal cruelty if an Okatslov is run over by a track while they're taking the Panzerhaubitze to Isengard? P.S. Panzer Haubitze, greetings from the Bunny Squad, Australia.
Isengard?
Austria.
Well, it's Austria, not Isengard?
Well, they said Panzerhaubitze to Isengard, and then they said greetings from Bunny Squad, Austria.
Well, I thank you for the support, but I don't know how I can answer that question. I feel like it may be a joke, because I'm pulling up Isengard, and apparently it's something from, I don't know, The Lord of the Rings, I'm guessing? It says it right there. But I haven't really watched Lord of the Rings to really know, so I'm not exactly sure if it would be or wouldn't be, but I do thank you for the support. And I hope we kind of have answered the question in a way, but thank you so much for keeping this channel running and also confusing me just a little bit about Isengard, because I actually thought that was a place for a moment. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from BL Parak, who says, wow, HIMARS and HIMARS with ATACMS really are game changers. Just thinking back on the last few weeks, and it is amazing.
And I'd have to agree, the HIMARS have definitely been changers, game changers, especially with the ATACMS missiles. And I know that a lot of people are about to say, but they're not really confirmed. And I have to say that while we usually never make assumptions, I feel like this is an assumption we can make with enough knowledge and proof to show it is an ATACMS. And so I'm going to say with close to definite certainty that the Ukrainians have gotten ATACMS at this point and they're using them. And so, in my opinion, I'm honestly floored that they're using them so well, and they're actually hitting targets that truly count. Most importantly, the airfields in Crimea, and also, hopefully in the future we'll see them actually attacking the port infrastructure at Sevastopol, although we haven't seen that yet, and that was done with a drone. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, and I do have to agree, it is mind-boggling. The kind of change that they've made in the war with the HIMARS and the ATACMS alone. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Jonesy, who says, I listen to you every day. You do an awesome job and respect your willingness to stand corrected, sense of humor, and accurate, up-to-date info. Keep up the good work. Perth, Western Australia.
Perth, Western Australia. Oh, he's in the only town over here. Cool. Yeah, I don't think you know this, Matthew, because Matthew isn't as big as a geography person as me, but most of Australia lives in this area right through here from Sydney to Melbourne. That's where most of Australia's population lies. And then there's a couple of outliers like Brisbane and also Port Douglas, but and also Darwin. Darwin's another exception to that, but still a pretty small city when you really look at it. But Perth is pretty much an island on a continent. There's really nothing outside of Perth, except for the city itself. So let's take a look at Perth and see what it looks like. The streets! Why can't we... Oh, there we go. Wow, look! It's like an old factory. Cool. Wow, this must be like the old area of town. Do they drive on the left side or the right side of the road in Australia?
Ooh, a sushi place.
Yeah, I was just looking at that too. It looks pretty nice. This building is brand spanking new. But it looks pretty nice. Still better than Birmingham. Also, no dollar. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I thank you so much for the kind words all the way from Perth, Australia, an island on a continent. I kind of call it that. I know that's not really an official name, but it's still really cool to hear that you are from Perth, Australia. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. Can you reread it real quick to make sure I touched all the points?
It was actually just a compliment.
Oh, and so with that, thank you for the kind words once again. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much.
And real quick, folks, just a big shout out to Sweaty Chungus. He didn't throw in a chat, but I just want to say that he said his bronchitis was getting him. So, Chungus, we hope you get to feeling better. And I'm sorry to hear that it is getting you. I think the enforcer actually has that same problem, so he can probably relate.
I actually do. I actually have pretty bad bronchitis at certain times, and so I understand what you're going through. It sometimes feels like you're breathing through a filter, if that is a good explanation of it. And so I hope you're doing well. I was actually told at one point my bronchitis got so bad a doctor mistook it for asthma and gave me an inhaler. That's how bad my bronchitis started to get. But it's largely subsided over the years, luckily enough. But I do remember when I used to get it terribly. And so I absolutely understand what you're going through. And so if everyone could wish Sweaty Chungus the best, because I know it's a little bit rough to get through that, I would be highly appreciative. I'm sure Sweaty Chungus would appreciate all of that support from all of y'all. And so with that, I wish you the best of luck once again, Sweaty Chungus, and we are on to the next question.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from BL Parak, who says, your Russian accent sounds like the guy on Life of Boris channel. By the way, NMs are Newton meters.
Hello everyone, I have to tell you that I'm actually Life of Boris. Unfortunately, I had to stop my YouTube channel, my actual main one, because it honestly was getting a little tiring. I'm doing a terrible one now. I'm so sorry, but Life of Boris was an absolute G. He was a cool channel. I liked him. Sadly, he stopped making videos a month ago because his channel had died pretty much, which is sad. But if you go back and look at it, he had some really cool stuff like Slav King, How to Slav Your Car, classics on the internet. You know, if you grew up on the internet, you knew Life of Boris. You eventually passed through the channel at some point. And so it's kind of sad to see him go. But yes, my accent does kind of sound like Life of Boris. And he's not from Russia. He's actually from like one of the Baltic countries. But still, I kind of imitated his accent in a way the best I can. That's how I do my Russian accent. And I bet, and I saw someone, Astray Katarsis, said, "He's Boris." And yes, I remember all of the Boris stuff. It was a cool channel. And sadly, his time has came and gone, I guess you could say. Like most channels will. You know, there will be a day that Mr. Beast drops off the face of the earth, and it just happens on YouTube. It's not that they suck or their content's bad. I think, and now we're going to get DDoS probably. Now that I said his name, I just remember there's bad juju with his name. But it's just how YouTube works. There's a time where everything falls off the earth, just like television shows lose their ratings and they go off the air. But with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, and it's true, it is largely based off of Life of Boris. And so with that, thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have yet another super chat from BL Parak, who puts in another $10 donation, who says, Peter Zihan is actually very good. His new book is about how globalization is winding down, but the U.S. is in the best position for that compared to other countries. The book is loaded with facts.
Can you reread that one real quick?
Yes, he said, Peter Zihan is actually very good. His new book is about how globalization is winding down, but the U.S. is in the best position for that compared to other countries. The book is loaded with facts.
Well, and thank you very much for the support, but one thing I would have to say is that, in my opinion, globalism it can never really die. That would be like saying nationalism will eventually die. And I know that a lot of people think that nationalism is a bygone thing, but think about this, if you're an American viewer, do you think the American military is by far the best? Do you like the United States? If you answered yes to either of those, that means that you may be a nationalist, and there's no problem with being a nationalist. I think it's wonderful for one to be proud of their country and their people and what they all collectively achieve. I'm proud of every single American. It's honestly amazing to think that our country has made it this far, this long, and that this nation is filled with such bright, talented, and strong, and cunning, and intelligent people to be able to do what we do every day. And every country has people like that: the British, the French, the Germans, the Ukrainians, the Russians to a small degree, the Japanese, the Koreans, not really North Korea, more so South Korea, but still, in that regard, the world continues to try and explain this. The world continues to standardize. And I don't know if people have seen this, but if you notice Europe now, and we look at a map of this in the 1400s, map of Europe in the 1400s. Images. So, if we actually had a really, really good map, which I don't think we'll be able to get here quick enough. This one looks decent. Notice how many countries were in Europe at that time. Notice how the Holy Roman Empire is made up of dozens of princes owning small areas of land and treated as sovereign countries independently. The Czech Republic alone was more than several countries alone. And then you had the larger ones like Hungary and Castile and Aragon and England, but by and large, all of these countries were incredibly small. And over time, you would see that these areas would begin to standardize. Cultures would begin to become more standardized. Like I'm saying, you would see that the Burgundies would disappear and be replaced by the French. The Britons of northeastern, well, really more of northwestern France would become French as well. The Welsh would largely become English. And over time, the princes would slowly disappear, the Holy Roman Empire would disintegrate, and the entire thing would become one integrated North German Confederation, and then the German Empire later on. And it's just the process of the world, as we can see, that everything becomes standardized. And I feel that as time moves on, the globalism can't really stop, because this is just the next step in standardization. Much like we see with European countries from 1404, well, 1444 according to this map, up till 2020. So with that, I hope that kind of answers that question. Once again, not really taking a political stance on things, but taking more so of a historical trend kind of stance to that. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much for the support. And you may have an interesting book, but once again, with experts, there is still room to disagree and say that it could go another way. But with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you for recommending that book. I will make sure to take a look at it and maybe try and read it if I have the time.
All right. And next up, we have the return of Steve 2828. He puts in a $300 donation and says, "Greetings, Enforcer. Bilbo's sword, Sting, glows blue when it detects orcs. Do the 777 artillery guns do the same? You need to read Lord of the Rings if you want to become president."
Man. Dang, I'm going to have to start reading then. But I thank you for the massive amount of support, Steve. You have not been around for a while. I've seen you in the live chat here and there, but welcome back. And what an entrance back, I gotta say. Now, to answer that, I do think the M777s kind of glow blue a little. Usually when they're firing, there's like this little just glint of blue just for a split second. But yes, they do glow blue when they're targeting orcs. Not really when they see them, but more so when they're getting them. And so with that, I hope that kind of answers that question a little bit. Good joke, by the way. And also, thank you so much for that whopping support. It's unbelievable the amount of support you'll send in a single super chat. It blows me away, and I'm absolutely flattered that you think so highly of this channel and that you would want us to keep on going to that degree. It's impressive, and I gotta say thank you so much from both me and Matthew for helping this channel to keep on running, and also being such a supporter and a fan. It means a lot to me, and thank you so much once again. And Matthew, if you would like to add anything to that before we move on, please feel free.
And yes, I just want to say a very simple comment. Steve, thank you very much for the very big support, and we really do appreciate you supporting us and keeping us going. And we will have to give Lord of the Rings a check out. I have heard about it. Everybody obsessed about it way, way, way back in high school. and it looks like it's very popular with everyone in the chat as well. So we'll have to give that a look. But thank you once again for the very, very big support. And up next, we have a $20 donation from Bass Girl, who says, "You guys are super awesome. I look forward to your stream every single day. I've been watching on my TV, but I listen every day. Look at Weatherford, Texas. Look at the courthouse. And a shout out to David Bacco. He had total knee replacement." And first off, Bass Girl, thank you very much for your kind words and support. And also, yes, shout out to David Bacco. I know he's still in the live chat. And I hope everything's going good with that knee replacement.
I do hope everything's going well with that knee replacement as well. We actually had a granddad who had both of his knees replaced eventually. God rest his soul, he is dead now. He's been dead for years, but that seemed to take a little bit of a toll a bit. So I hope you're doing well with that. I hope it's not too tough for you to get through. And also to address you personally, Bass Girl, thank you so much for those kind words. You've been around forever, and calling us super awesome is just incredibly sweet of you. And so thank you so much once again. And also, I love that you listen every day. It's not like I'm saying you have to read the little red book. For me to be like, well, thank you. I mean, you can just watch once a week, and I'm just appreciative to anyone who enjoys it. But thank you so much for always being here. I always see you in the chat, and for always being a huge supporter of Ukraine and our channel as well. It does mean a lot to me. And since you asked, we are going to look at Weatherford, Texas, and also the courthouse. Matthew, I think if you know anything, and hopefully you're getting what I'm saying here, this should be familiar to you, maybe a little, that courthouse.
It looks like the typical small town courthouse layout.
Well, I don't mean that. I mean, we actually have relatives that live here.
We do?
Yeah, the pilot.
Oh, yeah.
They
right.
live here. That's actually crazy. If you're from Weatherford, Texas, Bass Girl, this is actually where one of our relatives live. We're not going to give out their names.
Oh, well, wait, Enforcer, it's not Weatherford. It's actually a city nearby. That's why it didn't ring a bell.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyways, we looked at the courthouse before, but this is a neat little small town. I love the courthouse. That is a really cool one. Let's look at the inside of it. Now, that's a good picture of it. But I want to see the interior. What does it look like? Also, what is this? The Parker County Peach. Let's see no interior pictures? Also, what's this? We'll move on from that. Let's see here. No interior pictures yet. You've got to be kidding me. Someone's got to... Come on, it does have an actual interior to it, doesn't it? Also, what is this? Jeez, this... Oh, wait a minute. I didn't even notice in the background. I was actually looking at this guy with a respirator and the glasses. Then I saw what was in the background. I was like, whoop! I was like, oh, goodness. Let's see here.
That looks like the fellows from a bad group back there.
Yeah, it looks like the bad bunch back there. Goodness, this courthouse has a lot of stuff going on in it, but we can't find any freaking interior pictures at all. This is finally. Okay, now the inside looks nice, I have to say. I like the windows.
Wait, is that the inside of the courthouse?
I'm assuming so. Here's this guy again taking another picture. Like, what is he supposed to be? The NCR Ranger that everyone always thought I was supposed to be? But man, I mean, like, I just want interior pictures. This freaking picture gallery is bringing me through politics. I'm just trying to find interior pictures of a courthouse. Can we just find those? Oh my god. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Okay, we're going to click on that one. We're just going to end it here because I can't find interior pictures of this thing to save my life. Maybe this? Nope, no interior pictures. That's annoying. That's really annoying. But I thank you so much for the support. I wish... Well, actually, we're going to take a look at one of the neighborhoods. I said I wish. I'm in charge of the Google Maps. Let's just look at it. It looks like Wetumpka, actually. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Bass Girl, and also the kind comments. I just wish we could look at the interior of that courthouse, because while it looked impressive from the outside, I wanted to see if it was equally impressive from the inside. And so with that, Thank you once again, and we're on to the next one.
All right. And also, real quick, Bass Girl also added in after she sent the super chat that she wanted a yeehaw for David Bacco for his knee replacement surgery. And here it goes. Let me back up for just a moment so I don't blow my mic out. And there you go. And David Bacco, seriously speaking, we really do hope that you recover very quickly from that knee replacement surgery. I've never had to undergo a serious surgery before, so I can't really relate, but I can only imagine it's pretty bad. So we hope you get better soon. And next up, we have a $10 super chat from Adam Connell, who says, you probably mentioned it a million times during the live stream, but I've always missed it. What is the origination of the Leaf Spring Army name? Thank you, Enforcer, and for all that you do. And folks, we are about to take a sharp left turn onto Conversation Street.
All right. You know what I'm talking about, Matthew?
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome to Conversation Street, everyone. Hello, I'm James May. But anyways, moving on from those terrible impersonations, the Lee Spring Army started off with a video of me looking at a destroyed Pantsir AA system in the middle of a field. It had been bogged down in mud, and the Ukrainians had thrown a Molotov on it and burned it to the ground. And someone was walking around the outside of it and looking at it, and they came to the back rear axle of the vehicle, and there was a leaf spring visible on it. And I said, oh my god, is that a leaf spring? That is so archaic. It like, those haven't been used for like 80 years. I didn't know it, but leaf springs are actually commonly used to this day on all kinds of vehicles. And so I was making a huge folly making that statement. But right after that, I was like, maybe I'm wrong, because I don't know a lot about vehicle suspensions. So I pulled it up, and I found out right then, like just a minute and a half after that statement, that I was wrong, and leaf springs are used commonly on a lot of vehicles to this day. But at that point, the live chat went insane. They were like, oh, leaf spring, leaf spring. And so it became so crazy in the live chat. It was funny. It was hilarious. And so someone, out of the garble of everyone just laughing about the leaf springs, they said, man, it's like, we're like the Leaf Spring Army or something like that. And it just clicked. And everyone started going with the Leaf Spring Army. We started going with Leaf Spring Army. And from then on, everyone here has coined themselves as soldiers of the Leaf Spring Army. And I've been kind of like voluntarily and involuntarily made as the commander of the Leaf Spring Army. And so that's kind of the story. The whole commander thing, I just run the channel, so I guess I'm just the commander of the thing. It's not like we do anything rather than fundraisers. So, you know, I guess as in terms of leading the charge on the fundraisers, I am that guy. I'm that guy, pal. Trust me. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. And I hope that gives you a quick little story on the origins of the Leaf Spring Army. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support and also asking for that little story.
And up next, we have a $50 donation from Redwood Beard, who says, I was able to catch up with the streams after moving. At the rate the Black Sea Fleet is getting picked off, I wonder if we if we see a rhyme, the Voyage of the Damned.
Maybe Voyage of the Damned. Let's Voyage of the Damned. Oh, I know which one you're talking about now. It's that movie. I know this movie actually. And so with that, thank you for the support, and maybe it will be similar to Voyage of the Damned. Who knows? But once again, thank you so much for catching up with the streams. That must have been about 100 hours of time that you must have watched. And that's one thing that a lot of people complain about, is how long these streams go on. They're like, man, I don't have time to watch 3 hours. And if you don't have time to watch 3 hours, you can get through all of the news in about an hour and 30 minutes. And that covers about all the news we have. You don't have to watch the question segment, but it is there, just in case if you wanted to. And also for us to address everyone who helps us to keep the thing going. And so with that, I hope that does address why these streams go on for so long, and also why it must have taken you forever to catch up on these streams. And so thank you so much once again for the support. And I think we may see a little bit of rhyming going on there in between the Black Sea Fleet and the Voyage of the Damned. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
And next up, we have yet another $20 super chat from Psyops, who says, enough of the bad parts of American history. Let's look at a real American Banff. I'm pretty sure that's a typo. But he says, look up Bass Reeves.
Bass Reeves. Is that like a town?
I'm guessing
Oh.
it's a person.
Bass Reeves, American law enforcement official who died in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Was he proud to be an Okie from Muskogee? Bass Reeves. I think I've heard this name in passing, but I haven't heard it often. He's noted as the first black deputy U.S. Marshal west of the Mississippi. He worked mostly in Arkansas and the Oklahoma Territory. Now I'm turning into JFK for some reason. Golly! During his long career, he had on his record more than 3,000 arrests of dangerous criminals and shot and killed 14 of them in self-defense. Jesus, man, this guy was literally the law in between Arkansas and Oklahoma. God, how did he die? Reeves was himself once charged with murdering a posse cook. Oh. At his trial before Judge Parker, Reeves claimed to have shot the man by mistake while cleaning his gun. Well, that sometimes does happen. He was represented by former United States Attorney W.H. Clayton, who was a colleague and friend. Reeves was eventually believed and acquitted, possibly based on his exceptional record. And I'd have to say, honestly, if you arrest 3,000 people and then you accidentally shoot someone while you're cleaning your gun, I guess you get a free pass. Reeves' health began to fail further after retiring. He died of Bright's disease, which is nephritis, which is pretty much a kidney disease, on January 12th, 1910. That is impressive. That man is literally the face of law and order in between Arkansas and Oklahoma during that time. That's impressive. And so with that, thank you so much for the support, Psyops, and also pulling up a guy, I guess you could say, brings glory to Oklahoma in terms of what this guy was doing, bringing this many dangerous criminals, I guess you could say, to justice. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much for the support, and also letting us take a quick look at that little story.
And next up, we have a $10 super chat from Richard Daniel Jr. yet again. And also, he says, this is for that excellent voice from the Enforcer. He nailed it.
And thank you so much once again for the support, Richard. And thank you for enjoying the voice I put on your previous super chat when you put it in all caps, because I always read them all like that in my head. And so with that, thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Adam Connell, who says, I will be in Birmingham, Alabama for Furnace Fest at Sloss Furnace in late September. If you're a fan of metal hardcore jams, maybe I'll see you there. Greetings from Cleveland, Ohio, and Slava Ukraine.
Hey, Slava Ukraine. And also, thank you so much for the support. And sadly, I'm not a big fan of metal. My music is more so like old marching music. Not really marching music, more like military marches. I'm not into cadences or anything. I don't know. I just never really jived with those. But the old marches, like, for example, like British Grenadiers, Highland Laddie, a lot of British marching songs I just adore. I think they have wonderful tunes. Also, I listen to a lot of international ones like Chante l'Oignon of France. I love that one. Also, the Zurlabon Regiment March. Just spectacular for fife and drum music. It's a really niche kind of a music to get into, because it's not like anyone makes that stuff anymore, but I just enjoy it. I don't know why. It's just what I've always enjoyed. But also, Sloss Furnace is a really cool historical location, and I have been there before, and it's a pretty interesting place. I didn't go in it, but I drove through the parking lot over here because it was in the middle of classes in college like last year or so. So with that, thank you once again so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment, and I hope you enjoy the city of Birmingham. It may not be the prettiest city in the world, but it does have some really cool places, usually outside of downtown Birmingham and over the mountain, more so towards Homewood in Mountain Brook. Although, it's still got its pluses and minuses, but it's by far way better. And also, they have botanical gardens in Mountain Brook, and it's a really cool place. It's really pretty. Let me see if I can drop y'all down here. Show y'all this. These, come on, work with me. These are the Birmingham Botanical Gardens. This is a really cool place, and also the zoo's nice too. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support, and I hope you enjoy that concert again. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And moving on, we now have a $7 super chat from Banana Boat 30 Plus, who says, hello, Enforcer team. With harms being introduced by the U.S. into Ukraine, Do you think the A-10 will become more viable in the CAS role, considering one of its most major threats would be radar AA?
Oh, that's a tough one to answer because while radar AA may be its primary foe, the manpads could still shoot it down fairly easily, at least as far as I'm assuming. I don't know if has an A-10 being shot from a manpad. List of combat losses. Let's see, F-18. Oh, we're looking for the A-10s. F-14A, rest in peace. Very nice plane. Wait a minute, what? An F-15 Strike Eagle was shot down. I thought that none of these had ever been shot down. Apparently they have, but not in air-to-air combat. Apparently it's all from SAMs. Let's see, moving on down. A-10. This one was shot down by an Igla. And so you can see here that A-10s also have a foe of the Igla. And let's see if that continues on as a trend. Thought to have been engaged by a Gopher, a Strela 10 SAM, which is a pretty much a SAM battery. It's a smaller one. The other A-10 was also shot down by another Strela. We can see that this A-10 here was shot down by another Strela. This is a Strela 1 based on the BRDM-2 chassis. And so based off of all this, it looks like the shorter range SAM batteries there were the ones that shot down most of the A-10s, but we can still see that the overall trend... this one doesn't actually have any data on which one it was shot down on, but all the other A-10s were shot down by some short-range surface-to-air missile systems, and not anything large like an S-300 or an S-400, although this didn't really exist at the time, especially for the Iraqis. But still, it may actually have a fighting chance if the Ukrainians were using a large amount of anti-radiation missiles. That could change the playing field. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, and thank you so much once again for the support, and a very thought-provoking and interesting question that I may not have been able to answer completely, so make sure to do a little bit of your own research, because while that is my answer right now, it could be different, depending on if I get more information or not. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And next up, we have another $20 super chat from Redwood Beard, who says, no, not the movie The Russian 2nd Pacific Squadron, 1904.
The Russian... Wait a minute, what was the name of the Voyage of the... Oh! Wait a minute! Voyage of the Damned. The Russian Pacific... Oh, wait a minute, now I know what you're talking about. Russian Pacific, Squadron... 1904. The Battle of Tsushima, aren't you talking? Yep, there it is, Battle of Tsushima. The Russians were soundly defeated. We can see that they went into this battle with 8 battleships, 3 coastal battleships, 9 cruisers, 9 destroyers, and 9 auxiliary vessels. They then came out of the battle with 6 less battleships, 1 less coastal battleship, 14 other ships were sunk, 2 battleships were captured, 2 coastal battleships were captured. So actually, as a matter of fact, they came out of the battle with only one of their battleships standing, only. 6 ships were disarmed and a destroyer was captured. Pretty much, the whole fleet was wiped out. It was a decisive Japanese victory, and in that regard, wait a minute, Matthew, look at this. Look at this special little note right here. On Admiral Togo on the compass deck above the bridge of Mikasa at the beginning of the Battle of Tsushima in 1905. Now here's a bit of irony for you, Matthew. The signal flag being hoisted by the Mikasa, the Japanese ship in this painting, represents the letter Z.
Ooh.
Isn't that a little ironic that in 2022, the Russians are using the Z as their sign in this war, and the Z is their way to victory, and at the Battle of Tsushima, the Z is what the Japanese would raise over their flagship after they soundly defeated the Russian Pacific Squadron at the Battle of Tsushima.
Now that is interesting.
That's very ironic in a way, and very coincidental most likely, but still an interesting little fact. So with that, in that regard, I would have to say, yes, it will definitely be like the Voyage of the Damned here for sure. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much for the support. And also, it was just by complete fortune that you had us go and visit that directly so that way we could see that a little bit of irony. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $7 super chat from Olivia McCarthy, who says, do you think that the plan is just to bleed Russia dry to the point where they just give up and withdraw rather than taking back territory? If do you think Western support will be consistent?
Yes, I do think Western support will be consistent throughout this war. We do have to remember that wars have dragged on an incredibly long amount of time in other areas of the world, like Afghanistan and Vietnam, and the entire time that we were invested in that area, we would just send over whatever was needed. And so, in this instance, considering that we were able to consistently supply the ARVN with supplies in the Vietnam War, as well as the Afghan government for as long as it existed under our protection, as far as Ukraine is concerned, I think if that was Ukraine's strategy, is to just bleed the Russians dry and continue to grind them down to a pulp, the U.S. and the rest of the Western world will probably continue to support them, so that way they could help to pretty much destabilize and completely destroy their rival without even having to fire a single shot at them. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question. And thank you so much for the support. And that was a really good one, actually. I love that question. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $6 donation from NOYDB, who says, Great Road Arabit Spit, Road 136, a rare road from Crimea to eastern Ukraine, a good motorbike trail. Do you think it has military use?
R136. Let's see. R136. Was it R136?
He said, Road 136.
Road 136. There's a lot of them in the UK. Road 136. For Ukraine. Fortunately, I can't find specifically where that road is. And so, unfortunately, I'm going to have to declare ignorance on that and say I'm not really sure if it would be to strategic value of the Russians or not, sadly. But with that, thank you for the support once again. Sadly, I won't be able to answer that question due to a lack of information. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
And up next, we have finally gotten around to it. We are getting to the Morse code. WF2U puts in a $5 super chat along with Mark Hodges, who have both figured it out. They said it points to the warehouse in Bile. Message number 2, the Ukrainians are getting pretty feisty at this whole war thing.
Ding, 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 ding. Y'all are correct. You did give both messages correct. It did give away what we're assuming is another ammunition depot somewhere around the area of Donetsk. And also, the message is correct. They are getting pretty good at this whole little war thing, and they're getting kind of feisty now with the missiles they're firing. And so with that, thank you to all of y'all for decoding the Morse code message again. I hope y'all have continued to enjoy this as much as I have in constructing them. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for y'all's brain power in time deciphering those messages.
And also, NOYDB put in a little clarification of his last super chat. He said the Airbat Spit is the most eastern edge of Crimea.
Most eastern edge. Oh, sorry there. But eastern edge. Airbat Spit. I think this is this thing, isn't it? I think it's this road. Fortunately, no street view. Except for right here. Oh, wow, that's nice.
And NOYDB, personally, me, I think it could have military use. But yeah, it looks like a good motorbike trail, I'll say that.
I think, in my opinion, it does look like a nice trail, but in my opinion, I don't think this would have much military use because it's such a narrow corridor to try and funnel equipment down. And also, the terrain is probably kind of marshy, as you can see. I don't think tanks could really, or vehicles for that matter, could travel down this reliably without running into some major problems down the road. So in my opinion, I would say no. It would be better to try and keep the vehicles and equipment moving through the main I guess, the mainland part of the peninsula instead of this very narrow strip of road, which would make them prime targets for Ukrainian, I guess you could say, drone attacks and also HIMARS fire once they start getting to the end of it, because they would have to funnel into a bottleneck. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, at least in a way. And also another thing I noticed down here is that there's like a cool fort. Do they have any pictures? They do. I want to see this. Oh, there's a lot of beachgoers here, and I don't see any sign of that fort I just saw on the satellite view, sadly. But with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the question. It was a good one, but I don't think it would have any military value in my opinion, but I may be wrong. And so on that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Santiago Flores once again, who says, looks like a V1 campaign from World War II against Crimea.
And I'd have to say that is very true. I actually think I made that comparison a little bit earlier with the V1 in another perspective, with the droning of the little drone that was flying over Sevastopol and its attack. But I would have to say that it does look a lot like V1 Doodlebug attacks at this point, with how the Russians are reacting and how it's starting to have a bit of a psychological toll on the Crimean, well, the Russian Crimeans there. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, or address the comment in a way, and thank you so much for the support, and also that pretty good comparison. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Bremner's Ghost, who says, the sign on the bridge should read, how would you rate your vacation to Crimea on TripAdvisor?
And I thank you for the support. And also, that sounds like it led to a poll. Did it, Matthew?
And it did. It did. Bremner's Ghost was the reason why that poll went up.
And Bremner's Ghost, I would have to say, I would refer back to the poll, but to answer it one more time, I feel like they would most likely give it a 1, because while they're used to crappy service, they're not used to missiles blowing up over their heads. So with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from BSG Wolf, who says, have a nitric acid Coke Zero with a shot of whiskey to avoid the diabetes. And BSG Wolf, a good dose of nostalgia there. We will have to have that shot of whiskey to avoid the diabetes, but we're going to have a trade-off. We're going to get, I guess it's called cirrhosis of the liver.
And also, thank you so much, BSG Wolf, for being around for so long that you remember the acid Coke jokes. That was so long ago. It feels like it was ages ago. And I thank you so much for just being just being here and enjoying the stream. I'm actually at a loss for words. That is a huge nostalgia thing for us, and I thank you so much for coming up with that little joke again. And we will make sure to have a little bit of nitric acid Coke, and also have a little bit of whiskey to chase it down. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you so much once again, BSG Wolf, for being our, I guess you could say, our center of nostalgia. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Big Tex. And to imitate the famous Bald and Bankrupt, he says, the best feature of the larder is the fine Corinthian leather.
Wait a minute.
That was a terrible impersonation, by the way.
No.
Terrible.
Now, here's how Bald and Bankrupt would do it. Look, a Soviet larder. You know, what's best about these Soviet larders is the fine Corinthian leather. That's how he would do it. You know, check out this leather. And then he'd show it a little bit, and then he would be sitting there. All right, so we now found Mehmet, and he's going to drive us to Old Apkazan. You know, and he'd do something like that. But anyways, I thank you so much once again for the support. And it is true, those larders have their fine Corinthian leather. And also their mengen. And so with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
And next up, we have a $5 super chat from Big Tex once again, who says, in all seriousness, Zihan, pronounced Zion, is brilliant, and you must study him, read the latest book. His weapons prediction takes too long to explain.
And thank you for the support. I will take a look at what he has to say and what he has written. But y'all do have to remember that my stance still kind of stands that people can call themselves experts, but sometimes they know about as much as the next guy. And if I have any assumptions that may be true, I'm sure he would have said. And I would like to see if this is true. Peter Zihan, February 24th. Let's see. Russia has followed through with its months-long threats of invasion of Ukraine. My latest. Let's click on the link. Russian military was not focused on securing the separatist republics. Rather, the Russian military under direction of Vladimir Putin has launched missile and airstrikes across the country with an aim of not crushing only the Ukrainian military, but dismantling the independent government in Kyiv in total. I would like to watch the video, but unfortunately I feel like that might be copyrighted. So visit the archives. Let's see here. Any way we can find
MailChimp.
Interesting.
I'm
trying to find something because I want to see, because this is something that will tell me whether this is an expert worth the salt or not. If he said Ukraine would only last a week, I'll have to discredit him, because every expert said that was like just what was in vogue at the very beginning of the war, and once the Russians got stopped, they were still going, oh, they'll get steamrolled. And if I find that, I'm going to have to say, you know, the guy might be an expert in some ways, but certainly doesn't have like the key to the world. But trying to find this is probably going to take forever. I want to go and see on February 24th. If we scroll back far enough, we've already gotten back to August 1st. So if I keep up at this, I'll eventually get to February 24th. So let's see if we can keep on going. That's July 13th. We're getting there. Let's keep on going. Well, how far have we gotten? July 6th. This guy does a lot of posting. Kind of like I do a lot of news streams. Come on. June 29th. Starting to get there. June 20th. Oh my god. It feels like we're getting nowhere. Come on. I'm literally having to use my other hand because the other one's tired at this point. We now made it to June 9th. Come on. Bear with me, Matthew. I'm sorry for this, but I'm wanting to see if the guy actually
and while you're looking for that, I see over there on the side under the What's Happening little segment, it says trending in the United States. Leave America. What the hell?
I don't know what's up with that. We're now in May. I mean, what did this one say? All right, well, we're going to keep on moving. Couldn't really corroborate that one. Oh, come on. We made it to May. Let's see, we're not that far now. We're in April. Oh, my lord. Someone's saying, take your time. Man, dude, if I take my time, it'll probably be 12:30 by the time we get off here at local time. April 25th. It only goes back to April 25th. I did all that for nothing. Are you kidding me? Okay. Alright, I guess I have to give up on that. Get it while you can. Wait a minute, wait, what about this one? When was this put out? February 24th. We are looking at the tightest wheat market since World War II. The world's #1 exporter invaded. The world's #4 exporter. Wheat is about to be very sexy. I don't know if you can put wheat in lingerie or anything, but
that's interesting grammar there on that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Man, Ukraine and Russian invasion paths. Let's see. Okay. That's all it says. Sadly, I think I'll have to do a little bit more research off of this off stream, because it doesn't look like I can find a straight answer to what he said then, and I don't want to play any of his videos because those could be copyrighted and we could get in a lot of trouble for doing that. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and I thank you for the support, and I will look into that a little bit more.
All right, and before we move on to the next super chat, we have a poll to address, and the question was, would you support the U.S. footing a large portion of the bill to rebuild Ukraine? 44% said yes, we owe it to them. 37% said maybe, depending on the amount, and 19% said no, it is not our responsibility. Now, to be completely honest, I see arguments for both. However, I would side with the 44% that said yes, we owe it to them, simply because we did have an agreement, or at least I think a treaty. What was it, Enforcer?
A
Between the
memorandum.
United States and a memorandum. We did have that, and we blatantly broke it. We are sending supplies and resources to them, but we aren't really like directly helping them to defend their country. We're just kind of doing it in the sort of cop-out way. However, that doesn't, negate what we're doing. But I would say that yes, we owe it to them in some respects to help rebuild their country, simply because we haven't, in my opinion, upheld the entire faith of the memorandum. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
I would actually have to second exactly what you said, because I think that the Ukrainians do require support, not only because we owe it to them because of the memorandum, but also because Ukraine and investing in Ukraine will allow us to have a little bit of more control, and it'll also bring them more into our sphere of influence more so. Kind of like how we did the Marshall Plan in Western Europe after the Second World War, which a lot of people attribute to us rebuilding Germany alone, but we actually sent a lot of money to France and the United Kingdom as well, and also a couple of other more minor countries in size like Belgium. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and I hope we answered that poll fairly well.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Benny Grandstrom, who says, when will Ukraine receive the large deliveries of weapons from the U.S.?
Well, what we've been hearing right now is sometime in the fall, but we don't know exactly when, and honestly, we don't have a clue what the West is really sending, how, and when, because the harms made it over, and we had no idea that that was happening until we heard an official declaration by the DoD. So, in that regard, I just think that it's getting there when it gets there, and unfortunately we won't really be able to get in a really clear picture of what's going on with it. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question. I know it's a little bit of a letdown, but honestly, they're keeping it a secret, and it's a good reason to keep it quiet. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and we have about 12 super chats left. So up next, we have a $5 donation from Kevin Scott 76, who says, I should have kept my 1975 Pontiac Firebird. Speaking of torque, 455 engine and 0 to 60 in 7.8 seconds. I bought for $500 in 1985 in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Well, thank you for the support, and it's good to hear that that little Firebird you got has a lot more going for it than a lot of Neva. Because if you buy a lot of Neva, you're a loser. And then someone in our stream is about to say, but I have a lot of Neva, and you're not a loser, but everyone else who owns a lot of Neva is a loser. And so with that, we're on to the next one, and thank you for the support and letting us know about your fine 1975 Thunderbird. 1975 Thunderbird. Oh wow, that looks like a Cadillac, doesn't it, Matthew?
Yeah, somewhat.
Looks like a Cadillac Eldorado.
That's back when vehicles were built like pure tanks.
Yeah, Cadillac Eldorado. Kind of like that. See how it kind of has the similar shape to an Eldorado?
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, it's pretty neat, actually. I was thinking about the 60s Thunderbirds, like a 1960 Thunderbird. Like this one. For some reason, but that is still a cool looking Thunderbird. And so with that, thank you so much for the support and also letting us hear about that for a second. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Master Chief 117, who says Aussie Man from Aussie Man Reviews is from Perth. Check out his YouTube channel when you're bored. He's hilarious.
And I will make sure to check him out. There are a lot of great creators and YouTubers out here on the platform, and I would have to say I've run into a lot of interesting and fun ones over the years. And so with that, I hope I've been able to answer that question fairly well, and thank you so much for the support, and I will try and look into his channel in the future. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also for everybody in the live chat saying, I thought he said Firebird. He did say Firebird. I'm not sure if the Enforcer pulled up the Firebird. I don't think it was, but was it Enforcer? Did you punch in Firebird?
I actually punched in Thunderbird, but I was misspeaking and saying Firebird. Sometimes I do that, y'all. Don't take that too seriously. I just accidentally mix up my words, and then I just keep on running with it, and I don't even realize. So sorry about that, everyone. Just in case I got all of our car fanatics in a bit of a tizzy.
All right. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Adrian's channel who says, Aloha from Honolulu Enforcer and Enforcer Matt. Here's $5 for the coffee fund. I hope Ukraine launches a major counteroffensive soon.
And also, thank you so much for the support. And also, hello to Honolulu, Hawaii. Let's take a look at Honolulu, Hawaii. Wow, that's weird. It looks like they just cut straight through the middle of these reefs. Interesting. Also, here's Pearl Harbor. This is where it would be. Anyways, moving on from that, let's go to Honolulu. Drop down in there and see what it looks like.
Ooh.
This might be the first place that I can say Birmingham may have a hand on. But
Yeah, I'm shocked because it's expensive in Hawaii.
yeah, I mean, like, that's what I've always heard. Let's see if it looks like that over here. Maybe it's just a bad street. I mean, this is a parking deck. Let me try and find the main street.
There's
Main
folks hanging out in the parking deck.
apparently, and yeah, I'd have to say this is actually a little bit lower than Birmingham. So finally, for the first time, Birmingham wins. So thank you so much for the support. I would like to go to Hawaii one day just because I hear of the natural beauty of Hawaii itself, and I think it is a beautiful place. Also, look, the Dole Plantation. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support. And also, it's cool to hear that we do have Lee Spring Army members from the far out land of Hawaii. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Nicholas Sprouse, who says, Champagne, Fitful Flyer, Civil Roar, or a Hurricane, no scent of porpoise from air trash. So, I'm not sure what he meant to say there, if that's a typo or not, but I cannot read that on the stream. Time to assemble the heroes.
Well, I thank you for the support, and we will consider it. And so with that, I hope I've been able to answer that fairly well, and thank you so much for supporting this channel once again. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 donation from Sick Lid, who says, Enforcer not proud of his state's past nationalism much. Now, I think there's smoke coming out of my head right now.
Smoke?
Smoke. My gears in my head are really grinding right now.
Well, he's talking, I think, I saw that come in, and we were looking at that picture of the courthouse, and there were those specific flags in the background, and, you know, I went, ooh, and I said, I didn't even notice that. I was looking at this guy's face, and then we moved on. I think he's talking about that, and in that specific instance, no, not really proud of that. That was a breakaway nation from the United States. That was insurrection at its highest, and the federal government had a responsibility to unite the nation once more. So in that instance, no. So I hope I've been able to answer that question, because you gotta understand, if you say that, then you're not proud of the United States. You're proud of a country that didn't even exist and was in complete rebellion. So no, I'm not really proud of them. More proud of the United States that existed once they reunited the nation once more and have continued on for the next several 150 years or so after. So with that, I hope I've been able to answer that question fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $5 donation from Koala Resistance, who says, Enforcer, what is more useless? Reactivate rubber armor on a tank, cope cages on a tank, or Steven Seagal?
Steven Seagal, the most useless thing the Russians have. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment. Thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And next up, we have a $3 donation from Banana Boat 30 Plus, once again, who says, some Russian tanks finally made it to Kyiv. Credit Ryan 9000.
And they finally did. They've actually done that about twice or 3 times at this point during the war. And I like how the Ukrainians bring these tanks to Kyiv to remind everyone there that while the war is now off of their doorstep, it's still going on, and the Ukrainians are still faring pretty well at it. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment, and thank you so much once again for the support, because the Russians truly have arrived back in Kyiv. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $3 super chat from Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin, who says, in years to come, Ruski minstrel will be singing about poor Ruskies being ethnically cleansed by fascists and NATO.
And they probably will, but honestly, at that point, they ought to just grow up and cope. Because they're always going to come up with a complaint about how they were beat up by the bigger guys, and at the time, in the future, they'll completely act like they weren't threatening the world with nuclear annihilation daily. So with that, I thank you so much for the support, and that's true, they will, but they'll just have to live with it at that point. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $3 donation from Nathan Wright, who does not leave a comment. But Nathan, thank you very much for your support of the channel. And up next, we have a $2 donation from Scootaloo, who says, my 2014 Ford Fusion has 175 pounds of torque, and it's a 4-cylinder.
Really?
Really?
Man, I mean, like, that's even better than a lot of Neva. And so with that, thank you so much for the support, and thank you for letting us compare your stats directly against a lot of Neva, which just sucks. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Compound David, who says, I had an orange Gremlin too. I'm going to say Gremlin.
Gremlin.
I had an orange Gremlin too, and it was a V8.
Well, I thank you for the support, and that's actually kind of crazy to hear that that ugly thing had a V8. But still, thank you for the support and letting us know that you too are a part of the Ugly Car fan club. And with that, we're on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin once more, who says, Kremlin Gremlin is ruler of Russia now.
And can you reread that again?
Kremlin Gremlin is ruler of Russia now.
Yes, it is. And the Kremlin Gremlin is Vladimir Putin. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment, and thank you once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from George A., who says, you are a refreshing voice of historical knowledge, truth, detail, and rational comment in an arid desert of American journalism. The fact you are so young and diligent is impressive. You will have my vote.
Hey, well, I thank you so much for the support, George. It does help us out a lot for you to help us to keep on running this thing, and thank you so much for literally a paragraph of kind words. That was actually very nice of you, the whole thing. I try and get the historical knowledge correct for the most part. Rational comments, try my best to do those as well. And, you know, of course, there's always people out there, because whenever I do get kind comments, it's like, wow, you know, that's like complete antithesis to what some people would say. Because there are people out there who say, I have no idea what I'm talking about on anything. And then they'll sit there and say stuff like Ukraine will only last a week, and then it lasts 7 months. So I thank you so much once again for enjoying that we try our best on here. And of course I will admit, you know, because, and you know, the people who say these things will never listen anyways. I will admit sometimes I do get things wrong. We correct that on stream as soon as someone tells us, hey man, that might be a little bit off and you might want to check into that. And we check into it and I'll be like, oh, I'm wrong. And so I thank you so much for enjoying our efforts and us trying the best we can. And also, thank you so much for saying I have your vote, and also for mentioning that we are pretty young, because I'm only about 20, Matthew's only about 22, and we've been at this for 178 days now. And so I just thank you so much once again for all those kind words, and it does mean a lot to us. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you for your vote.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat, once more, from Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin, who says, coffee.
And Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin? Middle of the Gremlin.
Middle of the
Putin will hang in the middle of the Gremlin. I think I'm going to call you that from now on, because that's kind of funny. But thank you so much once again for the coffee fund. We will make sure to use that for more coffee. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment, and thank you once again. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And moving on, we now have a $2 super chat from Philip Fixes, who says, what is this? Your ADHD is showing. Slava Ukraine. Slava Ukraine.
Slava Ukraine. And also, what it is that sometimes I have realized that staying dead track on the news, just to explain why sometimes we do go down rabbit holes and they can sometimes get pretty intricate, is that people do like a little bit of variety in the news. A large amount of people do enjoy it. And so I've learned over time, over the past 100-something days, that instead of being dead on Ukraine focused, allowing this channel to expand out into doing things that are just interesting, is good. And so that's why we do that often, is because it allows for people to actually have something to come on here and watch. And instead of just seeing me go, another student attack, another tank destroyed, more infantry in a firefight, we can sit there and go, how much does a lot of cost? And have a whole bunch of laughs about it and jokes and just have a good time. And that's why we do that kind of stuff. It's not my ADHD. It's just that I found out a lot of people enjoy that kind of format. And so I make sure to include interesting and kind of entertaining stuff every once in a while. So that way people can just enjoy the news altogether and have the news in there. And that's the priority of the show. But also, you know, just some entertaining bits where everyone can sit back and have a good laugh about something. And with that, we're on to the next one. And I hope that does address that comment fairly well. And with that, on to the next one.
And for our final super chat question of the night, we have a $1 super chat from Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin once again, who says people do change their attitude and point of view.
And thank you for the support. I don't know what that was an exact reference to. I think that may have been in reference to the boxer.
Yes, it was.
And that is true. If he was a pro-Russian before the war and he's now a pro-Ukrainian, at least he's now picked the right side. You can't sit there. Like, this is one thing that's wrong with the modern world. And it's wrong with everyone. Well, like everyone from the two, I guess you could say, camps, if you want to call them that. If someone comes over to your side, you're not supposed to treat them like tainted garbage just because they were on the other side at one point. You should welcome them with open arms, because then it's a sign to everyone else on the other side that if they have any doubts on their own group, they can go over to the other side and they will welcome them in. Because if the guy was pro-Russian and now he's pro-Ukrainian, why in the world are we going to still treat him like he's a pro-Russian? He's now pro-Ukrainian, and you have to treat him like that. And also it sends a message to all of the other people who may think that Ukraine is on the right side. The pro-Ukrainian people will completely support your switch to their side. And so with that, thank you so much for the support. I do entirely agree with that statement. And with that, we've now covered all of the super chats for the night. And we're now going to move into the live chat questions. We're going to answer about 5 of them tonight. And then we're going to round out tonight's stream. And so, on to the first one.
All right. And first up, we have a question from Wayne's World of Science and Technology, who says, Enforcer, word is Ukraine has air-launched Neptune cruise missiles and they made the strikes. Can you confirm?
Unfortunately, I cannot confirm that. We haven't been able to get a lot of information about their Neptune missiles at all. And once again, everything we're talking about with these missile attacks is highly skeptical and based on a decent amount of assumptions. Even my surefire statement that I'm almost 100% confident in that the Ukrainians are using ATACMS, it's based on a lot of assumptions. And so, unfortunately, I can't really tell you exactly what kind of missile it is in any direction. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Bob Simmons, who says, Enforcer, should we distance ourselves from anyone that does business with Russia until they pay to fully rebuild all that has been destroyed in Ukraine?
I don't know in which context that is. If it's a corporate side of things with corporate entities or national entities like the nation of India or Pakistan, for example, which are doing business with the Russians but retain a neutral stance in this war. You can't. I'm going to have to say this, and this may sound a little crass. You cannot damn the Pakis and the Indians for doing what they're doing right now. They are taking advantage of an economic situation that is an absolute gold mine for them. They can get cheap resources and benefit and not have to pick a side at all. And I can't blame them because historically the U.S. Has been doing this for ages. We did that through World War I and World War II until we had to get directly involved. And so I can't really blame other countries now for being neutral, because the United States was the king of being a neutral country for literally over a century and a half. If you're talking about corporate wise and those companies are based in the United States like Nestle, then yes, I would say that people should by and large boycott those companies or stop supporting them until they either switch sides and begin to support Ukraine entirely or help in some way to rebuild Ukraine. So with that, I hope that does answer the question. And also, I just saw that everyone said, well, the people are saying that Paki is a slur. I thought that was something like calling the British a Brit. But apparently if it is, we'll correct that. Sorry about that.
That's a slur?
Is it?
I don't think so, to be totally honest.
Packy nickname. Is it?
It's in British slang.
British slang. Over here, I've heard people say that often just to call them that. I thought that was actually what they were called. But anyways, we'll correct that. So we'll call them Pakistanis from now on. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a question from Richard Parnell, who says, Enforcer, what size of missile do you estimate to be able to destroy the Kerch bridges? Nothing I can see other than several 1,000-pound bombs would actually destroy them enough to bring them down.
I would think... That's a tough one to answer. I would honestly think that it would have to be something larger than ATACMS, maybe multiple ATACMS. Maybe around 4 or 5 of them in a single spot, because bridges are strongly built. You can't take them out with just one. They're not feeble. So I would have to say, I don't think there's a single bomb, like just a one-drop munition that could do that kind of job. It would have to be something like 4 or 5 ATACMS, most likely. And so with that, I hope I've been able to answer that, and we're on to the next one.
And I see a lot of, I believe, UK viewers saying that if you were to say the word that supposedly is a slur, at least in the UK it is, that y'all would be carted off to prison. And if that is true, that is something else right there. If you're simply saying a word, they'll take you to prison. I did not know that would actually happen in the UK. But anyways, up next we have a super chat. This time it's a $2 donation from Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin, who says, I hope you realize that it is only 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Australia. Can you please go on a bit longer? Also, some people just arrived. Smiley face, smiley face.
Well, I thank you for the support. Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin. And unfortunately, we cannot go on because we've been up all day. I don't know if I've told you all this yet, but I built a well today, and I also got chased by a water moccasin. And so I am a little bit tired on top of this. So honestly, it couldn't go on forever, but I do thank you for support and also the enthusiasm. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again. I think we have 2 live chats left. And so with that, we are on to... Say what?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, what were you about to say?
I just said 2 live chats left, and I thought that was a question.
Oh, okay. And so with that, we're on to the second to last one of the night. And also, I'm looking at the live chat, and now it seems like there is a lot of gray area as into what really means what, because now I'm seeing that someone said there was a slur word against the British. Now there's someone saying that that is not a slur word. We've also seen someone say that the other thing we said's not a slur. I don't even know what's going on anymore. So with that, we're going to move on to the second to last one of the night.
And next up, we have a question from Brian Blackwell, who says, Enforcer, how long do you think it'll take before the Chechens flip on the Russians?
The Chechens flip. I don't think they will, because we're talking about Razman Kadyrov. Razman is, his whole entire position within Chechnya is supported by the Russian government. And so the powers that be in Chechnya right now will not allow for Chechnya to flip. That'll have to be something that is pretty much domestically fought between the Chechens themselves and the Kadyrov Chechens that are currently controlling Chechnya as of right now. So with that, I hope that kind of answers that for a little bit, because I don't think that's going to happen during this war. That's going to be a social development that probably takes decades. And so with that, I hope I answered that question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And I believe this is our last one of the night, and the question goes to Just a Bill 02, who says, with all the vehicles going to the bridge, any chance some operators behind the lines could slip a car bomb large enough to drop a span in with the rest of the traffic?
Ooh. That's a tough one, because a normal high explosive, I'm not sure if that could actually damage the superstructure enough. Maybe I would. Maybe if you could. I don't know if a car would be able to carry thousands of pounds of explosives though, but maybe it could. I feel like a van would be more fitted for, or a truck would be more fitted for an operation like that. But then again, I'm not entirely sure. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to declare ignorance on that one, because I'm not really a ballistics or a bomb expert to know if that would be possible with a bridge. So with that, I hope I've been able to answer that question. And also, I saw someone ask, because now everyone's asking questions about every kind of nickname there is for anyone from any country. Fedora asked, is Yankee a slur for America? as far as I know, it's not, because I've heard people call us Yanks before, and I honestly kind of find it fun. So, in my opinion,
And
no.
honestly, Enforcer, I don't take Yank. I think some people intend that in a bad way, but if somebody said you Yank or something like that to me, I wouldn't be offended by it, just because it's just literally a word.
Yeah, and I mean, like, at the end of the day, it's like you can call me whatever. When people say America's full of cowboys, guns, and hamburgers, I'm like, well, you kind of got a point. But anyways, with that, I hope we've been able to answer all of y'all's questions tonight, and it has, of course, been a pleasure to cover the past 24 hours of news with every single one of y'all. So, with that in mind, if you've enjoyed tonight's stream, please make sure to subscribe and also like, because we run these streams every single day of the week at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And so with that, thank you all once again so much for the support, and also all of the interesting questions we had tonight. We actually had a lot of new ones, because we have a lot of repeats every once in a while, but a lot of these have been practically brand new. And so with that, thank you so much to all of y'all once again. I hope that I hope all of y'all have had a fun time tonight, and I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time for the Sunday night fundraiser. Thank you all, and I'll see you then.
Slava Ukraine.